An old Sun Belt Conference rivalry revisited in Bowling Green tonight. For the first time since 2013, the Troy Trojans and the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers will meet on the gridiron. Good evening from Houchin-Smith Stadium in Bowling Green. Alongside Bob Belvin, I'm Nate Gatter. We have a great one for you this evening. A couple of potent passing attacks, Bob. Two of the most prolific teams in the country through the air. Gunnar Watson, in his 5th year with the Troy program, he's seen a lot under center for the Trojans.
A lot of time on the field, a lot of different coaches, and just won this job. And if you saw last week's performance in that tight game against Marshall, you understand why he's their #1 quarterback.
Meanwhile, Western Kentucky has perfected the transfer portal quarterback method. The Hilltoppers with another starter in his first season. It's Austin Reed, who joined the program from Division II West Florida, where he was a national champion, and that success has translated to the FBS level seamlessly.
And also sat out a season in 2019 as well. Did Reed rather. When you look at what Western Kentucky's doing philosophically with the transfer portal, it's working out just fine with Austin Reed.
Yeah, he has been off to a great start and had his first interception-free game in Western Kentucky's 73-0 drubbing of FIU last week. Troy got a nice bounce-back win as well under first-year head coach Joe Summerall, taking down a pretty good Marshall team that's been up and down, but a really convincing performance, especially defensively.
Well, it was, and they hope to carry that performance here into Western Kentucky tonight against a very high-potent offense of Tyson Helton.
Summerall, a defensive coach by trade. Tyson Helton, an offensive mind by trade. Now in his 4th season at Western Kentucky, 26-17 with the Hilltoppers, a very strong record in Conference USA, and they have enjoyed these night games here at home.
Well, they've been very successful, although when you say that and you look at their drubbing of FIU last week in the Sun, you think, well, maybe they'll translate that to the nighttime, but I feel like they will. And I actually feel in this game, Nate, whoever runs the football better, maybe 125-plus yards, might win this game because these two quarterbacks can take their teams up and down the field.
Troy will kick off on the road in the black and cardinal. Western Kentucky in the all-white at home. Zach Long puts it in the air. Michael Matheson is deep, but it'll fly over him and out of the end zone. Western Kentucky will take it from the 25-yard line, and we will get to see the grad transfer quarterback Austin Reed. Lists himself as a redshirt junior, could still have an extra year of eligibility potentially. Started his career at the FCS level with Southern Illinois, then down to D2 West Florida, and he's been getting better game by game here in his first stint in FBS.
Well, I love the first number that jumps out at you about him. That is a 73% completion percentage throughout the season. That's a big number when you think about, compare that to, say, practice against air. You hear that a lot about coaches and quarterbacks as they talk about it. And the fact is that Austin Reed is highly successful and very accurate, and he's got a great stable of receivers.
Goes outside on first down to Michael Matheson, has a seam across the 30, and he's brought down to the 33 after a gain of 8. Western Kentucky staying on schedule right away.
Got to pick your poison with these wide receivers. We're going to mention a lot tonight. And again, that's a great first down that gets you 8+ yards to get started.
Another RPO, this time to Dawood Davis, the Oregon transfer. Short gain along the sideline, but enough for a first down.
And Davis with a great career at Western Kentucky so far after the transfer from Oregon. And just plug and play, and you're going to see a lot of this. Short side of the field, wide side of the field, it doesn't matter. Reed will throw the ball all over the yard.
Coming off 381 yards last week against FIU. He had 5 touchdowns and only 5 incompletions. Not a bad afternoon for the native of St. Augustine Beach, Florida. Handoff goes up the middle to Kai Robichaux for a short gain, not much at all for Robichaux, the sophomore, who's really just taken this starting job as tailback the last couple of weeks.
Well, he has. There was a mix of about 3 different candidates to fill that gap. And back to my comments about whoever can run for about 125+ yards, I think stands a really good chance of winning this game. Robichaux, as you mentioned, has emerged over the last few weeks. We're going to say the same thing about another running back for Troy. Right now, it's continue to keep the tempo up for Austin Reed.
2nd and 10, Reed back to the air against a blitz. Downfield for Davis. Over his shoulder, he's got it.
Talk about throwing the football where the defender cannot get to the sideline. Take a look at this catch. But also the touch on the football from Reed. It's right there. Davis with the adjustment gets the 1 foot in, first down.
Western Kentucky going quickly. Reed rolls, throws to Davis again along the sideline, and he's inside the 15 with another Western Kentucky first down.
And we haven't even mentioned Malachi Corley and a couple of other receivers that'll complement Davis right then. Davis literally getting in the seam between the linebackers and the deep, and he's wide open near the numbers.
The two tight ends, Josh Simon and Joey Belgian, making their first appearance of the entire evening, getting in for 1st and 10 from the 13-yard line.
Now that just may be for cosmetic purposes. They're still going to throw the football.
Reed has time again. Simon in the corner, touchdown Hilltoppers. A flying start for Western Kentucky. 75 yards all through the air. Simon's second touchdown catch of the year to put the Tops on top 2 minutes in.
Now we promised you Reed would be impressive. Look how he spread the ball around 3 different receivers in this drive, and this is just too easy defensively for Troy. They've got to tighten that up and get better, particularly defending the back line of the end zone. Make quick work on that drive.
Here's Braden Narveson. This is the 26th extra point he's attempted already this year. 10 of them last week alone. And he puts it through. So Western Kentucky convincing, 75 yards in just 2 minutes and 2 seconds on the opening drive. From 13 yards out, Reed to Simon, the 15th touchdown toss for Reed, the second touchdown grab for Simon. Narveson tacks on the extra point. Bob, there was a lot of talk this week about how Troy might have the best defense Western Kentucky has seen. They're going to need to step it up a lot from that position.
That's almost embarrassing if you're Troy to allow Reed and Western Kentucky to go down the field like that. But let's talk about a couple things about the drive. As you mentioned, the accuracy of Reed, tremendous, using a number of different receivers out of a number of different formations. So right now, if you're Troy defensively, and we're watching them huddle right below us, there's a lot to talk about. There has to be huge concern on the part of this coaching staff at just how easy that was for Western Kentucky to score.
It's a Troy team that gets pretty good pressure on the quarterback generally. That did not happen on that drive. Corey Munson will be out to kick it away for Western Kentucky. He puts it in the air, short kick. Jabri Barber can take it inside the 10 from the 8, makes a move to the 20, and he's going to be stacked up short of the 25-yard line. That's why you want to pop that football up on the kickoff. In the end, it earns Western a yard or two of field position as compared to a touchback.
Yeah, there's always that great ongoing debate about whether the fair catch that inside the 10 or not. And in that case, I almost think if you're Troy, you're going to, even this early in the game, Nate, you're going to try and create something, a little better field position, a little bit of a spark, because they were clearly overmatched defensively in that first series.
Gunnar Watson, the quarterback leading Troy, thrown for 312 yards a game this year, completed better than 66% of his passes, 5 touchdowns, although he has thrown 5 interceptions. Turnovers have been a problem for the Trojans. On first down, goes into the flat for his tight end Michael Weiss, who has the catch close to the 30, call it a gain of 6, and sets up second down and short for Troy.
Troy's one of those teams that threw the ball almost in the upper 60s percentage-wise, and they've shrunk that number in successive weeks, trying to balance their offense out. Hence my comments about either one of these teams needing to run the football. Probably take that away from Western as well as they played in that first series. And now this is one of those tweener-type downs with 2nd and 4.
Handoff goes to Kimani Vidal. He had a good hole there. The offensive line was moving people. There is a flag that came down at the end of the play. It's a gain of 8 as it stands, but the flag is in the area of holding.
And Troy has also been looking for a running back to emerge, whether it's Woods, Billingsley, we'll see. Vidal, you just mentioned there on what appeared to be a first down carry.
But the penalty goes against Western Kentucky. Ed Ardito is our referee, and he puts the foul on the top. So march it all the way out to the 48-yard line, and Troy has a first down.
Pretty good running lane there for Vidal. Just didn't get into the linebacker space kind of quick enough. They were able to capitalize on it. First down by the rush and first down by penalty here. So now Troy has to be feeling pretty good offensively as they move near midfield.
Vidal still the tailback in the pistol. Watson off play action. On the drag route, it's off the hands of his intended receiver, Deshaun Stoudemire, and incomplete. Second-year Trojan who started his career at Iowa Western Junior College, a JUCO that produced a lot of Trojans, but he couldn't pull this one in.
I see Derek Smith get in the throwing lane defensively for Western Kentucky right then, and Watson just kind of had to try to loop it a little bit over him. Didn't have a lot on the football, and that'll make it 2nd and long.
3 wide receivers now for Troy. There are explosive plays in that bunch. Trojans already have 5 pass plays of 50-plus yards this year, most in the country. Here's Stoudemire with blockers in front into Western Kentucky territory, but he's brought down. A nice open field tackle by C.J. Jones, the redshirt senior from Cypress, Texas, who converted to corner from running back. And he stops him at the 45 after a gain of 7. Heavy package now for Troy on 3rd and 3. Western Kentucky stacks the box in response. Watson to throw to the flat, has Jabri Barber to the sideline, pushed out of bounds by Khalif Halassi, but not until he picks up a 1st down to the 35-yard line.
Watson may have checked out of that play as he saw, as you mentioned, Nate, 9 in the box, and that clearly means even if you have a pass play called, you've got to get rid of that football quickly. Watson did just that. Troy looks like they're in business.
1st and 10 for the Trojans at the 35-yard line. DK Billingsley in as the tailback to the left of Watson for the first time. Billingsley takes the handoff up the middle, little crease, and they'll give him 3, maybe 3.5 yards to set up 2nd down and manageable. But Billingsley is sort of the Kai Robichaux of Troy, if you will, in that he's gotten more and more action, more and more touches these last couple of weeks.
Emerging is the name I would use there with Billingsley in terms of augmenting this run game for Troy again, which is trying to, part of that balance they're trying to achieve, Troy, in run and pass, and you're never going to get perfect 50-50. And they think the range that they're in and what they were able to accomplish last week is going to suit them well even in this game. But continue to watch Western put 7-8 in the box.
Billingsley picks up the blitz. The throw rifled over the middle, too far in front of Marcus Rogers, redshirt junior from Smyrna, Georgia, in his 3rd straight season as being classified as a junior. COVID year in 2020, and then a redshirt season last year. Played only the final 3 games due to a wrist injury, but couldn't bring that one in too far in front of him.
Now this is a tougher call on 3rd down than the 3rd and 4 you faced a while ago. So let's take a look at Western defensively, and again, they're going to bring 9 to the line of scrimmage.
Western Kentucky's been good on 3rd downs defensively this year. They've held opponents to a 27% conversion rate, 17th best in the country. A blitz, Ignat is there. The throw out wide is too low and dropped by a sliding Tez Johnson, who looked like he slipped coming out of his break. He was pretty open, but instead it sets up 4th down, and this is a territory where Troy might be forced to go for it.
Yeah, Tez Johnson rather, is really another one of those, as we use the term, emerge. Last week with a big touchdown catch and run, and just trying to get the ball to him maybe a little bit quicker, a cadence quicker as well. Ignat really bearing down on Watson then, and here comes our first 4th down of the night.
Big play just 5 minutes into the game. 4th down and 7. Troy has converted 5 of 12 4th downs so far this year. Watson against another blitz, well protected. Stoudemire has it into the red zone, 1st down Troy.
That's a big play by Watson right then. Western came with an unbalanced slide to the right. You can see it. Pressure will come from Watson's left. He steps up into it and finds Stoudemire right in the seam. And that's sometimes the effect defensively. You're going to bring 8 or 9 in the box. You don't have a lot of coverage, primarily in the middle of the field right there. And a great pass by Watson. Big conversion, big sigh of relief for Troy.
This is an area where Troy needs to be better down in the red zone. The Trojans have converted just 11 of their 17 red zone possessions into any points at all this year. Handoff to Vidal, and he's stacked up right around the line, call it a gain of a yard. But the Trojans, Bob, have just not been able to convert these things into points down at this end of the field consistently this season. Those 11 scoring possessions on 17 red zone chances, 6 worth in FBS. And just 7 touchdowns. That's 41% of the time they've gotten inside the 20.
Well, that's not going to get it done against this Western Kentucky defense on the road tonight. And it's going to involve Watson making, I think, quicker throws coming out of the pressure looks that Western is going to show him, getting rid of it quicker to these great receivers that run well after the catch.
Pressure on Watson, throw into the flat, nearly intercepted by Halasi, who was closing in on Vidal on the wheel route out of the backfield, and Watson might be fortunate to even have a third down here.
Yeah, you got to step out quicker. Here comes the pressure up the middle. And Vidal, not knowing where that ball was going at that point in time, he was still continuing to run his route toward the end zone.
This is what Halasi and the Western Kentucky defense have done in the red zone. They've limited opponents to field goals. This year, just 6 touchdowns on 13 red zone possessions against the Hilltoppers defense.
Got to get it, you got to get it to Johnson or Stoudemire here quickly with a quick release. Again, look at this, nearly 11 near the box.
Watson, well protected for a moment, but the pocket collapsed on him, and he's sandwiched by the combination of Jawan Jones and Mike Allen, and Troy's going to have to settle for another field goal attempt.
I think you got to come away with points if you're Troy here. And again, 11 white jerseys within 2 yards of the line of scrimmage, and Watson just not quick enough to get away, trying to sneak out in the middle. Had he gotten through that initial surge, he might have scored a touchdown. There just wasn't a lot of help defensively. The interior line getting it done.
Brooks Buse from 35 yards out. Kick is on the way, and it is down the middle and good. So Troy answers the Western Kentucky touchdown with a field goal. They're at least on the board, but Bob, might not be a lot of opportunities for the Trojans to settle for field goals if they want to win this game.
No, not at all. You cannot trade touchdowns and field goals, but also the 4th down conversion has to give them a little bit of confidence, them Troy in this case, not being able to convert on 3rd down right there, forcing the field goal attempt. It's what you had to do in that situation, given down and distance.
Both teams score on their opening possessions, but the Tops have a 4-point lead in the opening quarter. Simon from Reed, 13 yards out, and it's Western Kentucky up 7-3 early. Kickoff through the end zone for a Troy touchback. Western Kentucky will have it at the 25 once again. Looks like Troy's going to be happy to do that through Zach Long, who now has 9 touchbacks on 12 kickoffs this year. Nick Gatter, Bob Belvin back with you from Bowling Green. Bob, a good start, more or less what we expected, I would say, but we probably expected a little more resistance from the Troy defense.
Yeah, they got to come up with something right here to do just that, Nate. They've got to stymie this offense a bit and keep it onto the field in terms of being able to show some control and some different look here, coming out of basically being shellacked in that first series.
Joey Belgian in motion on 1st down and flags on the snap.
Now this is a good start for Troy defensively.
5-yard penalty, remains 1st down.
Penalty goes on Vincent Murphy, the redshirt sophomore right guard, to transfer in from South Carolina. Backs WKU up behind the sticks before even taking a snap on this drive.
Now this is the 3-4 look you'll see from Troy defensively.
Quickly to the outside for Jalen Hall, the grad transfer. Make that Malachi Corley with Hall blocking in front. And Corley, who put on 10 pounds this year, but doesn't show it with his speed and quickness. He's been a favorite target for Reed so far.
Now watch the trip to the top of the screen to include Corley in this formation.
Hand off to Robichaux up the middle, and he's across the 30 to set up 3rd down and manageable. But this is where the penalty comes into play. 11 yards instead of setting up 1st and 10, have set up 3rd and 4.
Look how quickly on 1st down they got 7 with a quick out to Corley. And this also becomes somewhat like a running play with these wide receivers that are available to Austin Reed. A lot of times he'll just throw the quick out to them and just let them do their thing.
Belgian joins Corley and Davis to the bottom of the screen, but a flag comes in, a false start against Western Kentucky.
And so at least in this drive, it's the only thing that can stop
number
Western
76.
Kentucky.
5-yard penalty,
Kentucky. So
3rd down.
Back at 5. Immediately when Belgian come out into the slot position from the tight end, Troy shifted their defense and they were expecting a throw into the middle of the field.
Trojans are showing blitz now on 3rd down and 9. 4 wide receivers. Michael Matheson came on in place of Joey Belgian. 4-man rush. Reed has time over the middle. There's a catch for Hall, and he has a 1st down. Big play for Western Kentucky, 13 yards to move the chains.
The pressure's just not there on Reed. They're just not making him uncomfortable as of yet.
RPO goes outside to Davis. He's one-on-one with a chance to put a move on Caleb Ransaw in the corner, and he pushes his way to the 45 for a pickup of 6.
Well, in all cases, you want to be able to isolate your wide receiver in one-on-one, particularly a guy like Davis. That's pretty good defense, albeit a 6-yard gain.
Already 4 catches for Davis for 60 yards inside the opening quarter. Second down and 4. Robichaux hit right at the line of scrimmage by Colton Marshall and falls forward for a gain of 1, maybe 2. Carlton Marshall, the senior from Mobile, Alabama, who set the Sun Belt record with 18 tackles last week to push him to a record 475 for his career. What a career for Marshall, especially considering he started as a walk-on.
And it took over 8 minutes of clock time for us to mention him. Clearly the best defender on this Troy defense. Walk on, it's probably a pro prospect, and by that quick out game and that just quick overall passing game that Western Kentucky has, it really neutralizes a great rusher and a great run defender like Colton Marshall is.
Reed faked it to Robichaux. He's hit in the backfield. There's Marshall leading the way.
That's not a combination you want if you're Western Kentucky. You do not want your quarterback subjected to Marshall. Now, he's a small guy in stature, but he's just a football player. Always has a nose for the football, makes the play, and you can see right there, he blew up the blocking and sacked Reed. That's part of what I'm talking about. You want to make Reed a little bit uncomfortable, and that drive was nowhere near what Western produced on their first one. And if you're Troy, I feel like you kind of won that part of the game.
Tom Eller, the true freshman punter from Melbourne, Australia, out. That one didn't get too far for him, but it got a good bounce. It's going to roll all the way inside the 10, and it's waved down to the 7. So Eller didn't get all of it, but it works out for the Hilltoppers in the end. It sets up Troy deep in its own territory. We will take a quick break here in Bowling Green, where the Trojans recovered nicely after Western Kentucky knifed through the defense on the opening drive. Trojans get a stop, and they take it back down 4. Troy takes over from its own 7-yard line, trying to build on the field goal from the first drive. Watson off play action over the middle, caught in stride by Rajay Johnson, and he's across the 25 with a first down to the 27. That'll get you out from the shadow of your own goalpost.
And that's a very good zip pass in by Watson, catching him in stride. That's a big play, as you mentioned, to get them out of a little bit of trouble here. And all of a sudden, you got a little bit of momentum swing here.
A convincing stop for the Troy defense after a very unconvincing first possession. Billingsley the back in the pistol. Clayton Allendike, the tight end, in motion. Watson off play action again. Under duress, has some room to roll across the 30 and run out of bounds by Jaden Hunter, the transfer linebacker in his second year now at Western Kentucky after coming over from Georgia, but a nice first down pickup again for Watson.
That's a good play by Watson, because obviously from our vantage point, we've seen it a couple times tonight and kind of thought in our mind, well, why did he just not run? In that case, the unbalanced line that Western put forward defensively forced him in that direction, short side of the field. That's good yardage on first down. You'll do a lot of good things. You can get 6+ on first.
Second down and 3. Watson has all day. Stoudemire on the drag. He's hit at the 40 and upended first by Jones, polished off by Halasi, but he got 6 yards and a first down.
We've got a 2-deep zone then by Western, and he just runs right underneath it. You can see all the backers there. Watch the end of this play. Good to see him get up and head back to the huddle.
One thing to pay the price for a touchdown. It's another thing to pay the price for 6 yards and a first down.
At the 40-yard line. You got that right.
Billingsley's back on for first down. Haven't had a design run call yet on this possession for the Trojans. Here it is, Billingsley up the middle, and he's hit after a couple of yards, trying to keep driving his legs, but couldn't push through the arms of Derek Smith, redshirt senior transfer from Jacksonville, Florida, on his third school after stints at Miami and Illinois.
I wanted to bounce that to the outside. You saw a run blitz there. You can see it come off the edge, and that's called setting the edge, as you hear so many times talk about. Halisi with just enough disruption defensively for Western to force that toward the middle.
2nd down and 8 for the Trojans against just a 3-man Western Kentucky front. Play action, wide open. Tez Johnson in the middle of the field makes a man miss, and he's inside the 35. That was easy pitch and catch from Watson to Johnson.
Even better catch, even better hands by Johnson. Watch this. Watson zips it, look at that. Goes up, gets it, catches the ball in front of him, brings it in. Here comes Troy.
That'll go as a pickup of 25 yards, put the ball at the 33 of Western Kentucky. And Troy is threatening again right away. Billingsley in the backfield. Western tightens up the box. On the delay, Billingsley with a gaping hole inside the 30 and down close to the 20-yard line.
Not only has had a good run on 1st down to move the markers, but also against the front that Western brought forward. To your point, Nate, Western stacking the box, and Billingsley just able to slide out to the left and get 1st down yardage.
Bob, I think you could have run for a 1st down through that hole.
Possibly. We were checking the field speeds out, and I wasn't like that recent walk-on at Penn State that had a, yeah, I may have. You know, Billingsley got, what, 11? I probably got about 5.
Well blocked regardless by the offensive line. Billingsley gets it again, has a crease inside the 10, steps out of a tackle, reaches for the end zone, and he's in. Touchdown, Troy. What a response by the Trojans. A stop and a touchdown, and they take the lead on the road.
Even more incredible is, look at this replay and see how many Western had in the box. That is well blocked up front. You know, Summerall opened his press conference on, look at that. On Monday, he opened his press conference, we're talking about Stidham, and that's who they ran behind, Austin Stidham, the left tackle. And Troy's not only stabilized defensively, they found a little bit of a groove offensively and have taken the lead.
Brooks Buse with the extra point. He is 12 for 12 on point afters now this year, and Troy has made it a 10-7 lead. Bob, we kind of looked at each other after that opening Western Kentucky possession and wondered, I don't know if the Hilltoppers were getting enough. 5 points doesn't seem like it's going to do it. Troy's responded with authority.
Yeah, that was an oh boy moment at that time. Billingsley, the difference here. The run and just gets in the end zone.
DK Billingsley, a bigger and bigger role the last couple of weeks. How about his 2nd touchdown of the year to put Troy in front? Western Kentucky marched down the field 75 yards on the opening drive of the night to go up 7-0. Since then, it's been all Troy, and the Trojans are up 3 now on the road with Zach Long back on to kick it away. His first 2 have gone through the back of the end zone. Nate Gatter, Bob Belvin back with you from Bowling Green. Long puts it in the air. Matheson eyed that one for a moment, but lets it go. And the Tops will take over again for the 25. The name of the game on this possession is no penalties. That's the only thing that stopped them so far.
Exactly, and it stopped them in a pre-snap penalty before they played 1st down. Western Kentucky's who we're talking about. And then they had another one just a couple of plays later and just really made for down and distance that ordinarily really wouldn't be a problem for a guy like Austin Reed who throws the ball all over the yard, but it was. And that led to the long punt, which led to the 93-yard touchdown drive with a good balance of run and pass that we just saw from Troy.
Western Kentucky put up 688 yards, 73 points. There's a bad exchange, and Reed just tried to throw the ball after Kai Robichaux, who was going through the hole, and the referees are going to give it to him as a shovel pass. Sort of an alert idea, I guess, but not the way the Tops wanted to start this drive.
I don't think Reed wanted to run the football after the hit that he got from Carlton Marshall. So let's take a look at this. You see the missed handoff, and now that's an intended receiver and a forward pass. Western Kentucky really lucky in that instance. Are they going to review this?
Yeah, the head linesman just came in for the near side. Wanted to get the attention of our referee, Ed Ordito. And he's going to come over and talk to John Summerall, the first-year head coach of the Trojans, who might have just used a timeout here as much as anything to make sure he's talking to the officials and getting everybody on the same page. Let's see what the referee has to say.
Troy has requested review on the play.
Just a timeout.
The ruling on the field is an incomplete forward pass.
And it will be reviewed. The ruling on the field is an incomplete forward pass thrown by Reed. And based on our first look, Bob, I think that probably is right.
I think it's a very good use of a timeout by Troy in this case. It did not exceed the line of scrimmage, though. Here's the missed handoff and just a two-handed push pass you would see over at Diddle Arena during basketball season. Watch this. Now Reed.
Yeah, no lineman goes downfield either because of the nature of the run call. So somehow I think the Tops managed to come out of that okay, because Robichaux is an intended receiver, and an eligible receiver. So you got to give Reed that credit. Looks like this is going to be a pretty quick review, and like you said, probably worth the timeout for Troy to ask him to take a look at it, but pretty easy call in the end.
After review, the ruling of an incomplete forward pass on the field is confirmed. It's second down.
So they confirm the call as expected.
But if you're Summerall and you're looking at that for Troy, you're saying, hey, this is worth a timeout because I have the momentum right now. What a great opportunity to be able to challenge that. Didn't work in their favor. I like it.
2nd and 10 for Western Kentucky. The offensive rhythm has sputtered a little bit. There's a good late route by Malachi Corley, who gets hammered after making the catch for a gain of 8. Sets up 3rd down and short. He took 3 different hits on that play to get him to the ground. Western Kentucky going quickly. Handoff to Robichaux, who squeaks off right guard across the 35 for a 1st down. And the Tops able to move the chains, which for them will feel like a small relief right now.
Again, 1st down was not kind to them to begin this drive. And to see Robichaux be able to convert there on 3rd down, that's a plus for Western Kentucky. This offensive line is a very veteran line. It's led by Rusty Stats, Quantavious Leslie on the left side. Big guy, 78, 76 Mark Good on the outside. And you still need to keep an eye on where number 2 is defensively, and I think that's a delay of game.
Well, the play clock still had a couple of seconds on it, and that's going to be the end of the 1st quarter. And Western Kentucky will have the ball 1st and 10 when we flip sides going to the 2nd. So it's a 10-7 lead for Troy after a quarter. Not how it looked the first couple of minutes, which were all Tops, but since then the Trojans have settled in, and they're looking good on the road in Bowling Green. In a rivalry renewed for the first time since 2013. Troy has dominated this series. They've won 9 of the 12 all-time meetings, trying to make it 10 tonight in BG. Western Kentucky ran a little tight end screen to Josh Simon on 1st down and stacked up for a loss. So this is going to be 2nd down and long coming up for the Hilltoppers. Offense was not a problem, Bob, in the 1st quarter, but the Hilltoppers have had a little bit of trouble these last 2 drives.
And that's been important to allow Troy to get back in this game. They really were outmatched in that 1st drive, but it's now a part of a little bit of pressure on Reed that he was not experiencing earlier in the game.
Reed to throw, has time, over the middle, it's tipped and intercepted by Carlton Marshall. Down the sideline, inside the 30, and he'll set Troy up 1st and 10 at the Western Kentucky 21.
One of the nation's leaders in tackles makes a tip drill to himself and the interception. And Nate, you and I just kind of been wondering, even during the break, when is Marshall going to emerge? Well, here's your answer right here. Now Troy has a huge opportunity. Watch this. This is all individual right here. Marshall tips it and catches it himself. Not only that, a great return. I'm looking at a yellow flag on the field.
Unsportsmanlike conduct called
15-yard penalty from the dead ball spot, and it'll be a first down
for Troy. So the interception will stand, but nonetheless a frustrating penalty for the Trojans. That's going to back the ball up from the 21 to the 36-yard line. So they go from almost in the red zone to now not even necessarily in field goal range.
I really appreciate that even more from the field view camera with Marshall. And again, we've gone on and on about his tackle statistics and how he's rising nationally. 18 tackles last week alone. And then he comes and makes a big play right here. And that penalty is huge. It takes him from right at the fringe of the red zone, as you mentioned, Nate, to the 36. But Troy certainly has the momentum at this moment.
That's the 6th interception of Marshall's career. And he does have those return chops that you noted. He took one back to the house against Texas State in 2019, a game in which Troy had a couple of pick sixes. Watson on first down, looking over the middle for Barber. There was very early contact from Will Ignat, who looked up for a flag and is surprised I think there isn't one. John Sumrall is apoplectic on the Troy sideline. He has good reason to be.
And he should be. Ignat was there early, no doubt. And Barber will come up. And to Nate's point, watch Ignat when he breaks out of this, even in the replay. You can see how slow he is to get up, kind of lose track of it, and looking around, waiting for it, and himself that it didn't get thrown on him.
2nd and 10 now for Troy. Handoff to Kimani Vidal. He has a little crease and gets planted around the 33-yard line after a pickup of 3 by Caleb Oliver, redshirt senior transfer who began his career with 4 years at Georgia Tech. It's a big 3rd down now, especially with that penalty looming large, because if Troy can't get anything more here, they might be tempted to go ahead and go for it. I mean, this is at the edge of Brooks Buse's range. He hasn't kicked a field goal longer than 40 yards this season. And now a flag comes in because Troy had too many men on the field with a snap imminent enough for the officials to throw the hanky.
12 men in the huddle for the offense. It's a 5-yard penalty. It'll be 3rd down.
So another 5 yards, and Troy now is behind the sticks on 3rd down. If anything, maybe this makes the call a little bit easier for Joe Craddock, the offensive coordinator, because I think this just became 4-down territory for the Trojans.
I agree with that assessment. I was thinking about that even going into the 3rd down pre-penalty. And again, this is a look we haven't seen too often from Troy tonight. Take a look at the middle of the field. It's open. They'll drop 2 safeties deep. Western Kentucky is showing blitz. Again, they have 9 inside the line of scrimmage, drop 2.
Only 4-man rush. Watson goes downfield, and it's overthrown, incomplete, intended for Rajay Johnson. And you'd think the Trojans now will be going for it, but it's 4th down and 12. And if they don't get it here, Western Kentucky gets pretty good field position, and that interception is for nothing.
It's like just a slip. Yes, it was. Johnson unable to just turn around. No interference there. That's the right call to keep the flag in the pocket. And to your point, if you don't get a 1st down, which is your intent obviously going into it, you want to push it a little bit deeper so you don't give Western great starting field position. Now let's see if they show 9 at the line. Not the case now. They're going to show 8. They drop 2 in the middle of the field to give Watson a different look.
4th down and 12. Watson takes a hit and he's picked off. Intercepted over the middle of the field by Derek Smith. And after the Western Kentucky pick, Troy gives it right back.
Well, it's real easy to say this is the worst throw of the night so far by Watson, but it's the worst throw of the night so far by Watson. At a costly point, it's a little bit better than the field position you were talking about. They got no gain on that, but that was just too long, too far, and Johnson had no chance. Now, let's also don't discount the fact Johnson was open. It was just a bad pass.
Troy leads it 10-7 with 13:11 to go in the 2nd quarter, but Western Kentucky is going to get the chance to go back on offense here after dueling interceptions. The Hilltoppers generally, that's a big advantage for them in this matchup coming into play. Much better team by turnover margin this year. Western Kentucky +7 in the turnover department so far this season, and that's among the best teams in the country, tied for 5th. They're 3rd in FBS. That's their 14th turnover they've forced this year and moves them into a tie with USC and Coastal Carolina for the national lead. Troy, meanwhile, has really struggled giving the football away. That was a big deal for them last week against Marshall. They probably could have scored 30 points if not for red zone turnover.
Especially in the first half. Remember, we get to all the preseason meetings and coaches talk about penalties and injuries. Well, the penalties in that case made a big difference in that drive by Troy, as it did in that second drive by Western Kentucky, which allowed Troy to kind of get back in the game right then. But yeah, you've got to win that turnover margin. I don't care what league you're at and where you're at. And I promise you, fans, when you hear coaches talk almost ad nauseum about it, it plays out in the end in the game on the field. And that was just a bad throw then by Watson, which really cost his team.
It's a 10-7 lead for Troy here early in the second quarter, but Western Kentucky is set to get the football back. It's a good point too, Bob, especially because those turnovers are the kind that coaches in particular, or I should say the penalties are the kind coaches in particular hate. They were pre-snap, really sloppy things. 12 men in the huddle, false starts by receivers. You don't want to see that.
Dead ball penalty on the return by Marshall after the interception.
Back-to-back interceptions. Western Kentucky takes over from its own 27. Little trickeration, gets it to Corley on the end around. Corley's caught up in the backfield, reverses field again, gets a couple of blocks. A flag comes in, and after all that, he's back to the line of scrimmage, and Western Kentucky might be going in reverse.
And they will. Leslie with the crackback block, as we used to call it old school. I know it's got a new term now, but Corley running around there, and Leslie's going to help him out. 78 right there in your picture. And he's going to be the guilty party. You're going to get a good look at it in just a moment. And no question the Troy staff will accept this penalty.
Illegal block in the back, number 78. 10-yard penalty, replay first down.
I feel a little bit for offensive linemen like Leslie in this situation because normally they're not bound by the illegal block in the back penalty between the tackles, but this was an unusual play.
Right there by Leslie, right there.
Because typically if he were blocking a defensive lineman on a normal pass rush, he'd be allowed to hit him in the back, so he's not used to having to worry about that.
And typically Corley's way down the field by then and Leslie's out of the play. That was good defense on the edge. Again, we talk about setting the edge a lot. Troy set the edge in that case when they tried that reverse to Corley. They'll find another way to get in the football, guarantee you.
Here's Robichaux, gets blocks from Corley and Hall and gets a good chunk of the penalty yardage back to the 25. That'll set up 2nd and 12.
Both of these offenses are very multifaceted. So now, Robichaux's been your running back so far. Now you're going to try and find him out in space, find him an opportunity.
Watson down the seam. Hall was calling for a penalty and he gets one. Jalen Hall realized as that pass was in midair that he wasn't going to be able to get to it and started waving his arm for the flag. And John Sumrall is fired up again because he's wondering where the penalty was on a similar play with Barber getting hit early a couple of sequences ago on the would-be pass interference by Will Ignat.
He's arguing it's uncatchable, I believe, as well. And he's been rather animated tonight. Long line of Troy.
While the ball was in the air, holding, which is pass interference against number 4 on the defense. Ball will be placed at the spot of the foul. First down.
That's on the safety, Craig Slocum Jr., 6th-year senior from Lake Butler, Florida. Another former walk-on who's played a huge role for this defense and played his way maybe into fringe NFL conversation.
I'm not so sure that ball was catchable. Sumrall may have an argument on that one. He's still working him hard.
Back in the Bluegrass State, where he spent his last 3 seasons in Lexington as the co-defensive coordinator at Kentucky, his alma mater. Throw looking for Dalvin Smith, but knocked away from him, incomplete. Sets up 2nd and 10.
That's the first target of the night by Smith. That's the kind of play you generally see Corley featured in. Just that quick slant. Not even a 2-step drop right in place. And that is really, really good defense.
TJ Harris, the senior from Leesburg, Georgia, 3rd-team All-Sun Belt, and Troy's leading tackler a year ago, who was applying the hit. 4 wide receivers for Reed on 2nd and 10. against a blitz, has time over the middle, leaping catch inside the 45, down to the 40 by Daewood Davis.
A good pickup of the blitz by Western offensively on the edge with that blitz. And Reed throws to the opposite side of the field away from it.
Troy was trying to substitute, didn't have enough time. Quick screen out to Hall, who spins out of bounds at the 35-yard line. They'll give him the 34 and a gain of a half dozen.
Here comes tempo. Western wants the ball to get placed by the umpire, and they get just that. They're going to make a couple of substitutions. Now Troy's got to have an opportunity to get different personnel in as well, to include Marshall back into the game.
Davis checks out. He has 5 catches already for nearly 80 yards. Reed protected. Jubinor is there, and he takes him down. Richard Jubinor, the junior from Nigeria, had the backside pressure, just kept working and working and working all the way around for the sack.
That's more of a coverage sack than anything you'll see tonight up to this point. Pressure's going to come from the edge, from the left side. Collapse it. Reed will step up, nowhere to go. And you'll look downfield. Deep routes by the receivers, they all were covered.
Backs Western Kentucky up to the 40. It'll be 3rd down and 10, a loss of 6. 4 wide receivers for Reed, a big play. Might be 4-down territory for the Hilltoppers. Would depend probably on the 4th down distance, because Narveson does have a big leg. Reed over the middle, nearly intercepted. Looking for Corley, and he just never saw the linebacker Jordan Stringer, redshirt freshman, getting a lot more playing time now in the absence of Jaden McDonald, who's going to miss some time, linebacker for Troy. And he just sort of came back to the left in his zone and almost had an easy pick.
That's a good defensive play, and I can't add any more to what you said. He just jumped the route. Reed still on a quick release in tempo, despite it being 3rd down, and now it's going to be 4th and 10. And how much is going to change here? This would be a long, probably close to 57 yards for Narveson.
So he's going to stay on the sideline. Western Kentucky will go for it on 4th down and 10. Tops are 2 of 5 on 4th down this year. Make it 2 of 6. The pressure and the sack by Javon Solomon. First team All-Sun Belt selection a year ago. And he slings Reed to the ground to stop the drive and send it back to Troy. Good field position again for the Trojans when we get back. Bob, we talked a lot about the potent offenses coming in. Western Kentucky looked great on that first drive. They've been stymied since, and both offenses have been giving away good opportunities.
And right here on 4th down, and this is a situation of more pressure off the edge. Reed to the turf on the Solomon sack. Keep an eye on Reed when he comes back. He took a pretty good hard knock on the turf there as the 4th down play expired.
First down handoff to DK Billingsley, who puts his head down and gets to midfield after a gain of 3. That second replay angle, it looked like the ball might have actually popped out on Reed as he was coming to the ground, but it just ended up right back in his midsection to cover up.
Yeah, and the fact that he was able to kind of find it and gather himself tells me it's probably going to be okay, but he did not. I mean, obviously last week in a 73-0 win over FIU, Reed did not see the kind of pressure he saw, especially with the new defensive twist that Troy threw at him in that last drive.
2nd and 7 for the Trojans. Johnson in motion. Pressure. Halasi puts the hit on Watson, who was lambasted, and his throw missed Stoudemire over the middle.
And Watson didn't see a lot of that pressure last week from Marshall either, so it goes both ways, as the old saying goes, but watch the pressure off the edge with Halasi. Perfectly legal, right at the shoulder pads.
Halasi in his 2nd year in Bowling Green, transfer from Oregon, who said he's been enjoying his more diverse role under new defensive coordinator Tyson Summers. He's getting to blitz, he's getting to hit the quarterback. Looked like he liked it on that one.
And he's seen the field a whole lot more on average than he did in his first year after transferring last season. Big 3rd down here, 3rd and medium. You got to throw to the sticks.
Western Kentucky shows blitz, brings 5. Smith is loose up the middle and brings him down. What a night already for Derek Smith. His 2nd sack of the season after a pick on the last drive. He is feeling good, and Troy will have to punt.
Interesting how you can get pressure unblocked off the right tackle. How you can get that kind of pressure rushing only 5. Earlier you were bringing 8 or 9 in the box and you just weren't getting it done.
Mike Rivers, the senior from Wilmington, North Carolina, out to punt for Troy. Jalen Hall is deep at his own 15-yard line for Western Kentucky. Rivers gets it away, and it's taken inside the 20 by Hall. A fair catch around the 18-yard line, and that will send us into a timeout. 10-7, the Troy lead with 8:46 to go in the second quarter. Tops get the ball back next. 10-7 Troy midway through the second quarter. Bob, how about that sack?
Unabated to the quarterback, Derek Smith. And that's clearly a missed blocking assignment, but doesn't come much easier than this right here. Dropping Watson and really capping off a very good defensive series for Western.
First down, and Western Kentucky gets it out to the 22-yard line. That's the first carry of the evening for the previous starting running back, Davion Irvin Poindexter, the transfer from Indiana. Conceded a lot of his role to Kai Robichaux, even more so far tonight. Robichaux has taken nearly every snap at running back.
Might include Irvin Poindexter and throw to him as well. Watch his tight formation with triple receivers top of your screen.
Reed against the blitz, goes outside to Davis with a flag on the play. Tiptoes along the sideline near the 35. The official didn't take great care with his spot, which makes me think this is going against Western Kentucky, and he knows it's coming back.
There's several penalties on this play, actually. There's 2 markers right within about 2 yards of each other, and then the line judge rather,
offsetting fouls on the play. Illegal motion, number 7. Personal foul, roughing the passer, number 11. Those penalties were offset. Replay, second down.
So the illegal motion against the Hilltoppers, and then O'Shea Fletcher, who came on the blitz off the near side, hit Reed late.
Those offsetting penalties benefited Troy in that case from the sheer numbers alone. And they're able to get pressure on Reed. Now the PA is running life in the fast lane here. Let's see if Western Kentucky can do just that.
Second down and 5, we repeat the down. Just 6 in the box for Troy. Reed fakes left, goes to Davion Irvin Poindexter, as you predicted, Bob, but he's upended immediately. Great tackle by Reddy Stewart, the junior from Decatur, Alabama. Honorable mention All Sun Belt last year, known more so as one of the best cover corners in the conference, maybe the country. But that was a great stop.
Well, not only did he take on the blocker, but he made the play as well. Here's the run by Poindexter earlier. And then that pass play, Stewart just broke up a moment ago.
No gain on the play, sets up third down and 5. Western Kentucky's offense in quicksand since the opening drive.
And let's see if Troy can get pressure just rushing 3 and gets the 5 up front.
Dalvin Smith in motion. The throw goes on the curl to Davis, who has the first down to the 30. David Davis has been the favorite target of Reed so far. That's 6 catches for 88 yards.
He went right to the first down marker and just curled in and made sure he got the necessary yardage.
Low snap. Reed gets it away to Dalvin Smith, who gets a good block from Jalen Hall and bullies his way to the 43. A gain of 13 and another first down.
And you take a look at this lineup, this stat sheet. We're up to 6 different receivers so far tonight here in the first half alone for Western Kentucky.
It'll be first and 10 for the 43. That's a rare catch for Dalvin Smith that didn't end up in the end zone. 9 of his now 22 career catches have been touchdowns. But he goes for 13 and a first down. Irvin Poindexter remains the back. He gets the handoff. Kind of got blocked behind his pulling right tackle, Gunnar Britton, and has to settle for a gain of a yard.
That time Troy bought an extra defender up on the edge, on the strong side, short side of the field, and kind of pinched that play into the middle of the field where Irvin Poindexter just only gets about a yard.
First year on the hill for Davion Irvin Poindexter. Of course, got the chance to face his former school back in Bloomington in just his 3rd game as a Hilltopper. when Western Kentucky lost that heartbreaker, had a fourth quarter lead of double digits over the Hoosiers, ended up falling in overtime. It's just one of many points of symmetry between these two teams, the heartbreaking losses they had in week 3. Reed looks right, finds Corley near midfield, and he's gang tackled there. Stewart was the first to hit him, and it sets up 3rd down and 3.
Troy may have recovered from that week 3 harrowing loss of their own last week with the win over Marshall. And we're talking about the App State game day game that they lost on the last second.
Matheson just runs through a tackle. How about that? Needed it for the first down and got there on a gain of 7. Just could not be brought down. It looked like Stewart again who had an opportunity.
Now 7 different receivers.
Reed quickly on first down, steps up, under duress, hit from behind, and dropped for what will go as a sack on a loss of a yard. Good pursuit by Shaquille Brown, the senior from Miami, who had a season-high 4 tackles last week against Marshall and picks up his first sack of the year.
Reed appeared to have a running lane after the pocket collapsed on him as he slid to his right, but that shoestring tackle, and you're right, albeit just a yard, it will go in the books as a sack. Keep an eye on just the personnel changes that Troy makes defensively. Now it's kind of a point counterpoint as Western Kentucky's going to get Matheson into the game late. You're counting as well. Both sides have 12 on the field.
It looks like Troy got to 11 in the end. There was a moment of hesitation there. To the outside, it's Smith. Same play that got him 13 yards before. This one gets him close to a first down. Call it a gain of about 7 to the 35. They'll give him the 34 to set up 3rd and 2. Western Kentucky still hasn't been very successful on first downs, but they're doing a good job on second downs and getting themselves into manageable situations.
Man, there's a lot of options here, and Troy's got a lot to think about in this 3rd and short. You can see just the personnel changes even from the field view. Now the high view, you can see all of the changes that have come in place. There's a lot of personnel switching on and off this field. And this is 4-down territory as well if you're Western Kentucky.
Robichaux back in. With that in mind, you wonder if the Hilltoppers might run the football. Reed getting everybody lined up. The handoff is to Robichaux up the middle and backs his way for a first down to the 31. Needed 2 and got 3.
Yeah, that's a good power run by Robichaux right then. Not a lot to work with, but he knew what he needed. And that last spin and falling backwards forward, you could do both at the same time. Yes, that's what got him the first down.
Another handoff to Robichaux, has a pulling man in front of him down to the 25-yard line. Got a nice block from Mark Good. They're bringing those tackles all the way around on some of those running concepts, and it served them better on that play.
That's working against that 3-man front.
Gain of 6. Toppers picking up the pace. Reed against a blitz to the right side. Back shoulder throw looking for K.D. Hutchinson, true freshman who got his first action last week and exploded for 5 catches out of nowhere. But that was much too tall for him at just 5'8".
And Troy had to bring a little pressure then off the edge. No chance on that throw. Take a look at Tyson Helton. Boy, he's been blessed with some good quarterbacks over the past 2 seasons. And the jury was kind of out on Reed. And when he came into camp, he won the job. And what a big win for Western Kentucky if you think about kind of numbers Reed has put up.
Yeah, Helton brought in a couple of transfers. The other one was Jarrett Dagey, who came in as FBS's leading active passer from West Virginia. He's now on the Troy sideline as the Trojans' backup. He transferred over the summer just before the season started. That pass is incomplete, looking for Hall, and now a decision on 4th down and 4 for Western Kentucky. Looks like Braden Narveson is going to come out and try to tie the game with a field goal.
A little surprised Western's not going for it here on 4th down. You know, you and I were on the field before the game, and the wind is, there's quite a bit of a wind. Looks like it will be at Narveson's back, which would indicate the 2nd and the 4th quarter Western Kentucky would have that advantage.
So Narveson out for the kick. He has made 5 of 8 this year with a long of 34. This is from 43. It is fading toward the left upright, and it banks through. That'll do something for Braden Narveson's confidence. Had to have been shaken in Bloomington a couple of weeks ago, and he gets the benefit of the doink on that one.
Off the left upright and bounce into the expensive seats through the upright.
Souvenir for their money. 10-10, 2:57 to go. Western Kentucky on a 43-yard field goal from Braden Narveson tied the ball game 10-10 with 2:57 to go. How about this? When your confidence is maybe a little bit shaky, Bob, get the benefit of the left upright.
I like this view. I'll just leave it to the video.
You know Braden Narveson's heart must have been in his mouth as that ball was headed toward the upright.
And we caught him on camera as he was on the sideline, and he was one happy guy once he got to the sideline. But to your point, that was a little iffy for a moment.
Munson's kickoff to the goal line for Barber. He brings it out from a yard inside the end zone. Veers to the sideline, gets past the 25. Might have been a face mask. The Troy sideline wanted it. No flag comes in, but a good return by Barber past the 30. And that's the danger of not taking the touchback like we talked about, Bob.
There's danger in running this down the sideline because the face mask was missed. You'll see it here in just a moment. A big break for Western Kentucky then, because that would have been another 15 and a starting position somewhere around the 47. Instead, it's a 32.
Troy has been very good at the end of first halves this year. They've scored on their final possession of the first half 3 times this season, including twice on the final play of the half against Ole Miss and App State. Watson hands off to Billingsley, who swarmed right away up the middle by the defensive tackle Mike Allen. Redshirt senior who transferred over from Wake Forest, now in his second year on the Hill. That was a good play.
And also missing from this Troy offense, despite that long 93-yard drive, was the big play last week. They had 5 plays of 40-plus yards against Marshall.
The back judge just threw a pass interference flag on Jaden Hunter, who was on the back of Deshaun Stoudemire. And this will give Troy a first down. Would have been 3rd and 9 otherwise.
So they've been missing that chunk play, that big play, at least as we near halftime here. And they're going to get a break here on the penalty. And if you're Troy, you want to hold on to the football for the balance and the remainder of this first half. And yes, that's perfect world, but they're going to gain pretty good field position after this penalty is assessed.
There's no foul on the play for defensive holding. 3rd down, incomplete pass.
No flag on the play after a consultation between the referees. They pick up the penalty. Troy has not gotten the benefit of those, and John Summerall is going to be upset again, and it sets up 3rd down and 9. If the Trojans don't get this, a lot of time left for Western Kentucky.
Yeah, don't forget the missed face mask on the kickoff return as well, which could have made a huge difference in field position. So now Troy with a little adversity. Let's see what they do. Let's see how they respond. My interest in what kind of alignment Western Kentucky is going to show them, if they're going to show the blitz and then drop the 2 backers into the middle of the field.
Watson on 3rd down against a blitz. Well protected over the middle. It's dropped by Barber. Would have been close to first down yardage, but we'll never find out.
No, we won't. And credit Watson with hanging in. They did drop 2 defenders back into the middle of the field and kind of took away that area where Barber was. But Barber, in the classic saying, got his hands on the football. It's got to make that play. And you're right, we'll let the chain gang decide exactly if that was a first down. He did his job, did Barber. He went right to that marker, just dropped the football on the pass.
Second punt from Rivers toward Jalen Hall. Backs up to his own 19, calls for the fair catch late, and makes it there. Good punt by Rivers of 47 yards, and Western Kentucky will take over right around their own 20-yard line where they spot it. This is a big drive now with 2:16 to go in the half, especially because Troy gets the ball to start the second half. So the Hilltoppers feeling some pressure here to get points. Otherwise, they're giving it right back.
Yeah, you can get some momentum defensively, momentum in the halftime. You know, coaches will argue, oh, well, that's important. Well, it's not, or that's just part of the game, or we don't think about those things. But I think it's bigger in this sequence for Troy defensively to clamp the Hilltoppers down.
80 yards from Paydirt on first down. Reed goes to the right side for his favorite target tonight, Dawood Davis, who had 22 catches over the first 4 games, so not as though he was little used, but that's already 7 catches for more than 90 yards in the first 2 quarters tonight. Moving quickly, Reed to the flat, another catch for Davis, a first down along the sideline, and he's out of bounds across the 35 second-year Hilltopper who won a Pac-12 title and a Rose Bowl at Oregon, where Mario Cristobal, then the head coach of the Ducks, called him the most unselfish guy he's ever coached. But he's gotten the chance to be selfish tonight.
Yeah, back-to-back catches and converts on the first down there. Haven't seen a lot of that play from Western Kentucky where they'll just stack two receivers near the numbers, just make the quick throw. First receiver's the blocker, the second takes it down the field. In that case, Davis converts. Each of the last two catches Davis has made has kind of gotten up a little gimpy. Keep an eye on that.
8 for 103 now for Daewood Davis. Reed to Michael Matheson on the left side, across the 40 with a burst across the 45. He's dragged down from behind by K.J. Robertson, the senior linebacker from Alabaster, Alabama, but it moves the chains again.
Same play pretty much. Actually, Reed didn't have a really good grip on the football. You look at that, but he's able to toss it out.
Quick handoff goes to Robichaux. He's close to midfield on a gain of 4. And Western Kentucky's going to use a timeout. Tyson Helton calls his first of the evening with 93 seconds remaining in the second quarter. Seems like the Tops have managed this drive well so far, and they've done it without having to put the ball really in harm's way at all. Just short throws and now a quick run to Robichaux.
And that's an offense they can rely on for the most part, particularly in this drive. A lot of time with 1:33 to go, and you got 2 more timeouts if you're Western Kentucky. So they can continue to work on those quick outs and throw the ball to the receiver at the numbers, allow them to get out of bounds if need be. But Davis tonight, and that's a game, that's 2 games for some players, his receiving and yardage numbers.
It's interesting because that was the big matchup tonight, was Western Kentucky's passing offense, 16th most efficient in the country, against Troy's passing defense, which has been good, 30th best by opposing passing efficiency. So far, I think the Hilltoppers have won the battle, at least when the ball's gotten into the air, but Troy has been able to generate some pressure.
Well, they have, and Troy was able to, out of the gate, first game of the season, they had to face Ole Miss in that passing attack, and they kind of held their own against an SEC opponent.
Big hole for Kai Robichaux across the 40, and he rumbles down to the 34, a pickup of 16, and the Hilltoppers right back in business.
Completely caught Troy off guard running the football in that down and distance in by Western Kentucky.
Reed on the RPO, goes to Matheson, his second catch of the drive, puts his foot in the ground, gets down the sideline, Matheson with a burst, and he's in for a Toppers touchdown.
So when you need to dial up the quick strike offense, you're able to do it if you're Western Kentucky. And Nate, this is no different, insert different receiver inside of a different formation. This is all Davis on the outside. Watch this.
Michael Matheson's first career touchdown as a Western Kentucky Hilltopper. The transfer from Akron had just 5 catches over his first 2 games, a baker's dozen his last 2. I'd say he's arrived on the hill now, Bob.
And my apologies for giving Davis credit for that. It was Matheson, and that was all Matheson along the right sideline, beating the defender and scoring a very crucial touchdown. This is really deflating to be scored on this late in the half.
Look at him run 2 Troy defenders into each other on the outside. Then he accelerates and gets down the sideline, and he makes another man miss at the end.
So you wonder why in pregame drills, when you watch the receivers in their specialties, do a little bit of a zig, a little bit of a stop, plant the foot, change direction. And then they also work on just purely running down the sideline and not running out of bounds. Case in point right there.
17-10, the Western Kentucky lead. Now, they did leave 72 seconds here for Troy. Fans are feeling good now here in Bowling Green on Parents Weekend. A nice big crowd out at Houchin-Smith Stadium. Beautiful evening for football in the end. And you wonder now if Troy might be a little more aggressive than they ordinarily would be. A chance for them, if they could get something here, to score twice before Western Kentucky gets the football again. Munson to kick it off. He's hung his first 2 up short. He squibs this one. It's a tricky one. It pops up into the air again, taken by Barber. Middle of the field at the 25. Dalvin Smith running him out of bounds over the far side and still carrying him almost to the first row of seats. Another good return by Barber on a tricky kick to handle.
I like the kick. I like the strategy then, not allowing a return or not allowing a fair catch. And the yardage is just a little bit different when you set it up, about a 5-yard differential in it. I like that special teams work right then by Western Kentucky.
So here come the Trojans, who have gone quiet now. Been a game of runs in the early going. Western Kentucky had the early touchdown. Since then, 10 straight for Troy, and now 10 straight for Western Kentucky.
Boost is 1 of 1 from 40 to 49 yards. And we'll check our numbers as to where they need to get for at least a field goal. That's going to help them. They're going to wind the clock. I thought for a moment they were going to allow the clock to stop on that play out of bounds, but that's not the case.
Yeah, Vice was pushed backward. He was backpedaling going out of bounds, and that's no longer enough to stop the clock in college football the last couple of years. Watson well protected on the out for a first down to Stoudemire on the far side. Deshaun Stoudemire has been his favorite target tonight, and that's a big play, not only to get the first down, but stop the clock.
That's a very tight window that Watson threw that ball to Stoudemire. And again, it's on the outside, so we talk about it time and time again. Stoudemire's the only player with an opportunity there. That was a well-thrown ball then by Watson.
4 wide receivers for the Trojans, 1st and 10 from their own 42. Need to get at least, you would think, another 20 yards to have a chance, and probably another 30 to feel good about it on a Brooks Buse field goal. Hilltoppers bring 4. Watson steps up. He gets a couple, but he's tackled in the middle of the field, and John Sumrall is going to have to use his penultimate timeout.
Yeah, that forces you to do just that if you're Troy. And credit Watson with just trying to get some positive yardage here. He's not going to beat you in a foot race. Even a defensive lineman he's not going to beat in that case. He just got what he could, lived to see another down after the timeout.
Should correct myself, by the way. That was the first timeout for Troy. In the end, they were not charged with one on that review back in the first quarter. The officials decided to undertake the review themselves, so no timeout was charged to Troy on that sequence. So the Trojans will officially have 2 remaining.
So you got to factor, you got to get to your opponent's 30, somewhere between the 25 and 30 would be it. And you got to move down the field with 35 seconds to go. So you still got maybe 1, maybe 2 opportunities, given you have 2 timeouts, to throw the ball into the middle of the field. But primarily defensively, you're wanting to guard against a quick down and out that's going to get the ability to get out of bounds and stop the clock. So we'll see how Watson manages with a minute to go.
Mentioned earlier, this final half of the first half, possession of the first half, has been friendly to Troy this year. Down the seam, Stoudemire has it again inside the 30-yard line. Troy will want to hurry and spike this ball to save those 2 timeouts. Nice throw from Watson.
Even better catch by Stoudemire. Now you're in field goal range, so now your strategy changes just a bit. I'm surprised they don't spike it in this case either.
They lost a bunch of time. They're still not sure what they're doing. John Sumrall has 2 timeouts. He didn't use them. Troy just cost themselves almost 15 seconds. Catch is made by Rajay Johnson now near the 15, and the clock will stop with 6 seconds. John Sumrall is going to use a timeout and ask him to put another second or 2 on, but he just lost a lot of time not calling a timeout on that previous sequence.
Not a good sequence at all, given the fact that you had the ball in the middle of the field with 2 timeouts inside of field goal range. And you're going to watch Sumrall's going to come down here just out of your screen. He's going to make sure he calls a timeout then, but that was clearly, I don't know whether that's the responsibility of the staff to do that or the head coach assumes responsibility in that case. And why you didn't spike the football there with Watson, kind of a mystery to me as well.
Seems like your options are, say, if we get a first down in the field, we're going to spike it immediately, or we've got another play called, or we're going to call a timeout. Troy did none of those things, or they had a play called and Gunnar Watson just decided he needed to take the 10 or 15 seconds to change the play. But that's a huge cost for Troy. You put another 10 seconds on the clock right now with a timeout. Even if they were out of timeouts, you can take 1, 2, maybe even 3 shots at the end zone before kicking a field goal. Instead, Troy's in danger here of running out of time if they throw this ball into the end zone.
So that will determine what kind of route your receivers are going to run. I don't think you're going to run the football unless you're going to try to get to the center of the field and just kind of lock yourself into a field goal attempt.
Watson overthrows Stoudemire into the end zone, and the clock stops with 1 second. That was risky for Troy just to even run that play. Didn't get close to scoring, almost cost themselves a chance at a field goal. Terrible clock management by the Trojans on this drive. They're still going to get a chance, though, to score points on their final possession of the first half for the 4th time in 5 games this year. Buse will have a field goal try from right around 33 yards on the right hash.
Now the question is this a part of the field where Buse wants to kick the football? We'll see.
Hawkins is the holder. He gets it down. Buse puts it up, and it is good. So a couple of first half field goals for Buse, and that stops the Western Kentucky run at 10. Give Troy credit. 72 seconds, they turned it into points. A little disappointed they couldn't do better with the clock, but they cut the Western Kentucky lead to 4, and more importantly, the Trojans will get the ball coming out of halftime.
Good first half, partner. Exactly what we expected. Both of these offenses have showed flashes, but they've also been shut down rather easily by the opposing defenses.
Turnovers have been a problem for both teams, but they've both been able to put up the points anyway. Tops on top by 4 at the break. Time for the second half from Bowling Green, where we've had a couple of lead changes already. Western Kentucky was up early. Troy came back with 10 straight to go on top. Western Kentucky made it 17-10 with 10 straight of its own, and a Troy field goal before the half has set the Trojans up now with a chance to take the lead, getting the ball to start the second half. Nick Gatter, Bob Belgian with you from Houchin Smith Stadium in Bowling Green. Corey Munson to kick it away. Jabri Barber is deep for Troy. This time Munson goes deep after popping up his kicks in the first half, and that is a touchback. Troy will take it from the 25. Bob, after all we talked about at halftime, what's point of emphasis number 1 for you on the Trojans' opening drive?
Be better on third down. The 1 out of 6 is not going to cut it. They're lucky to only be in a 4-point game. And the second thing that jumps out at me is the big chunk plays that Troy was able to accomplish last week. 5 of them plus 40 against Marshall. And Marshall coming in ranked very highly in a lot of defensive categories. Big chunk plays have been missing from this Troy offense.
First and 10 for the Trojans from their own 25 after the touchback. DK Billingsley begins the third quarter in the backfield. Watson off play action, has a clean pocket to the outside. It's too tall for his tight end Clayton Allendike, and that sets up second down and 10. This has been a theme for both offenses, to be honest, struggles on first down.
And this pass about 40 yards across the field, Nate, and Allendike with just no opportunity there. And that was about a 5th progression for Watson to throw to. Got to get the ball out quicker, shorter routes, although they may not have the explosive receivers that Western does in terms of getting the ball out quick and making things happen.
On the comeback, Deshaun Stoudemire makes the catch in front of Khalif Halassi, 11 yards and a first down for Troy. He has been the favorite target for Watson so far. That's 6 catches for 75 yards.
Yeah, he's been a big part of this offense, and again, not big chunk plays a part of it, but Stoudemire has been very consistent.
Billingsley with a seam to the 45 where he's ripped down after a gain of 8. They've been able to create creases for him up the middle.
And opportunity, good look there on first down. Obviously, that's a down predominantly you might want to consider run out, even if you're a throwing team like Troy, and they're going to get done on first down.
Billingsley bounces off a tackle into Western Kentucky territory with a first down on a gain of 8. Back-to-back 8-yard carries for Billingsley, who turned 25 years old last weekend. A 6th-year senior who's been around and getting his chance at more touches of late.
Ought to be 25 again. That would be pretty good.
Well, it's good for DK Billingsley right now.
Playing college football, too, at a very high level. Notice some just subtle notes here in the first couple plays of the second half. The adjustments. Troy has gone to somewhat of a run game.
In the pistol on first and 10, already in Hilltoppers territory. Watson to the outside, completes it for a short gain on first down. And that's a little bit better, at least getting something going forward to Devontae Ross.
Well, now you've got a great opportunity here about as the second half begins to score and take the lead again. You really don't have an opportunity here or need here to settle for a field goal. I think even at this point you might be in 4-down territory. He's just got a feeling that this Western offense is going to really put it together here in the second half. You got to have that in the back of your mind if you're Troy.
Billingsley up the middle again, a little hesitation. He's tackled by Oliver, but not until he gets across the 40 and sets up third down and a long one.
Now, Billingsley is getting this done a lot by himself. That front 5 is neutralizing the Western rush. but not necessarily pulling them past or pushing them backwards. Now this is easily 4-down territory here on 3rd and short.
Billingsley has been very efficient on the ground. Watson not so much through the air. He keeps it, has Tez Johnson for a big play. Johnson inside the 15, and he spun down at the 8. Tez Johnson was quiet in the first half, but this Troy offense can explode at a moment's notice, and they have 1st and goal.
Hands down the best play call and maybe the gutsiest play call so far of the game by Troy, and that's a big conversion to Johnson on a 3rd and short.
Billingsley gets it on 1st down, tries to bounce outside. He's wrapped up and dropped almost immediately by Jaquez Evans after a gain of a yard.
Obviously, the big question is you don't have a lot of field to play with here when you're in an end goal situation. Well, maybe that play calling has to be a little bit limited, but I really like what Troy has done here to begin the second half.
They've run the ball for close to 5 yards a carry, 6.5 a tote for DK Billingsley, whereas Watson's efficiency has not been very good, 184 yards, but he's thrown it 26 times. Barber in motion, Barber gets it, a little reverse to Tez Johnson, he's gonna throw to Watson, touchdown Troy! Tez Johnson caught the big play to get down inside the 10, and he throws the touchdown to Gunnar Watson. 9 straight for the Trojans, and they're back on top.
Go all the way back to the 1st down of this drive, and you just saw some really good creative play calling. Recall the 3rd down pass on 3rd and short, which got them to the end goal situation. And then when they needed it, when that run game just kind of constricts itself, you come up with a play like that and score a huge touchdown.
Buson for the extra point. He puts it up and through, and it's a 20-17 lead for Troy. A game of runs, 7 straight for Western, 10 in a row for Troy. Hilltoppers got 10. The Trojans have rattled off 10 more. Can Western Kentucky get it going again? Bob, it's almost like being at a basketball game. Game of runs. Troy's in front now again, 20-17. They take advantage of that 2 for 0 with the final possession of the first and the first possession of the second.
And scored 10 straight during that period. The touchdown, the drive overall was outstanding in terms of play calling against the defenses that were presented to you. You and I are going to talk a little bit about just how that last touchdown play was set up from a play way back in the first half.
Zach Long puts it inside the 5. It was nearly mishandled by the 2 return men coming together, and Western Kentucky is going to have tough field position back at the 18 on a big hit put on the return man. So we'll take a look back at that touchdown for Troy. Tez Johnson to Gunnar Watson from 7 yards out. Here's Johnson going, setting him up inside the 10, and then he in the end got the chance to throw the touchdown.
That's the big play that set it up. Jet sweep handoff, the reverse here. And now the pass to the quarterback, Watson. All set up by giving that look, as you and I talked about during the break, Nate. Giving that look on that jet sweep way back in the first quarter and handing it off and making that run around the edge then. Well, now we reverse it, and now we throw out of that.
To the outside, Malachi Corley, a little bit quiet in the first half. He has it across the 20 for a gain of 4, maybe 5 on first down. Just the 3rd catch of the evening for Corley, who's been a favorite target for Reed this year. 5 touchdowns to lead the team, all have been at home.
You've awakened Malachi Corley, Nate.
Dangerous for the Troy defense.
It is, because, I mean, you look at, I believe 10 different receivers have caught passes here from Reed.
Reed on the screen to Robichaux, has blockers, gets out to the 30 where he's knocked out of bounds by Caleb Ransaw, the sophomore from Harvest, Alabama, who did really well to fight through a block, but he stays down on the far side.
We mentioned it a couple times, but this, adding the pass to the running back, is relatively new in comparison to what Western Kentucky did last week against FIU. You did not see a lot of that. Of course, the receivers, be it Matheson, be it Davis, be it Corley, were catching and running and breaking tackles all afternoon long. But to see them throwing the ball to Robichaux out of the backfield is yet another twist they've added to this offense.
Caleb Bransaw is the injured Trojan on the far sideline. Saw him fight off that block from the right guard, Vincent Murphy, who was out in front of Robichaux. And he did really well to knock Robichaux out of bounds and make the play, but he has stayed down on the Western Kentucky sideline. And while they give him some attention, we will take a break. Western Kentucky with the football, down by 3 in the third quarter. Unfortunately, Caleb Bransaw is still down on the far sideline. They did roll him over, and looks like they're now helping him to his feet. So good to see that the sophomore defensive back is up on his feet. He played a really big role in Troy's win last week over Marshall. Blocked the field goal just before halftime on a sequence that really excited John Summerall. He said they had put in that specific block during the week in practice, and they used it to keep Marshall off the scoreboard just at the end of the first half, and was really grateful for that in the end in holding on for a 9-point win. Often used as last year as the extra DB in Troy's money package when they go to dime. He's been getting more time this year, and this is how it happened. He was just trying to work around that block, and then maybe his head just a little bit exposed on that hit, knocking Robichaux out of bounds, and he stayed down. But thankfully, he is walking off at least with his legs moving and everything moving around, but he does look pretty dazed. So hopefully Bransaw is okay.
Fortunate. That's been I believe our only stoppage in play so far in the game for an injury, so clearly keep an eye on him. But and it's hard to make that walk. It just really is, to come all the way across the field. You're like, it's just the football field, Bob, but it's just, and you've been injured and you're at that point, they're going to take him directly to the locker room. They're going to bypass the bench.
So it's 1st and 10 for Western Kentucky from the 29. Robichaux shakes and bakes in the backfield and ends up limited to just a yard. There hasn't been a lot for Kai Robichaux tonight. 9 carries for 39 yards. This running game in general for Western has been locked up, and now another Trojan is down right away. That's KJ Robertson, the senior linebacker, honorable mention All Sun Belt each of the last 2 years. One of the best tacklers in the country by Pro Football Focus back in 2020. Does not miss a lot of them, closing in on 200 tackles in his career. And he has stayed down on the far side. John Summerall has had some injury concerns on his defense coming in. Craig Slocum had to leave last week's game, but thankfully was good to go this week. He's missing Jaden McDonald at linebacker, Lewis Medina at nose tackle, who both could be out for some time. And now Caleb Bransaw in the defensive backfield, and he might be adding KJ Robertson to that list. Robertson favoring his left leg as he makes his way off the field. An embattled Trojans defense all of a sudden, dealing with a couple of injuries, but now in 2 plays, injuries are becoming a problem. He's going to be up toward the top of the screen. Can't really see him there. He just gets kind of caught up there at the end and hit by Leslie finishing his block, and maybe just got his cleat caught a little bit in the turf. Sometimes you see that when a guy's taking contact up high. So it'll be 2nd and 9 from the 30. Just 1 play over the last 5 or 10 minutes now with 2 injury stoppages. Reed on the design quarterback draw. Look at all the space for Austin Reed, and he slides down close to the 45-yard line. He had Vincent Murphy running in front of him, and Murphy was just as clear as Reed was.
Yeah, that's a good play call, the design too. And we didn't see Reed run the football at all in the first half.
Dalvin Smith, they've loved those short little out routes for him in the flat. That's limited to a 3-yard gain. Good adjustment by Troy at halftime to be ready for Smith coming out of the slot. A converted tight end to wide receiver, brings a big body, 6'3". He slimmed down to $190, but you don't see him used in the flat like that too often, so understandable that Troy wouldn't have been quite as ready for it in the middle of the field as opposed to down in the red zone in the first half. Dawood Davis in motion. He was the favorite target for Reed early on. Looks that way, throws that way, and it's broken up by Reddy Stewart. who, if he'd been a step quicker, might still be running.
I think Stewart was actually really tracking Davis with a motion along the line of scrimmage and then backing back out. And Stewart's just tracking that right there. And that's a great arrival, defender and ball at the same time. Good defense.
5 wide receivers now for Western Kentucky on 3rd and 7 from the 45. Troy counters with 5 defensive backs. The remaining 6 up at the line of scrimmage. Marshall backs out of the blitz. 4-man rush. Reed quickly toward Dalvin Smith, who took an early hit. The Western Kentucky sideline is looking for a flag, and they're not going to get it. Del Pettis, the junior, came in and hit Smith early, but no flag, and Western Kentucky will have to punt.
That was a really close one as well. And finally, if you're Troy, you're saying, well, a couple things have gone in my favor. Carlton Marshall also involved in that out there as well. That was indeed early.
That might be the first call Troy's gotten all night, though.
I agree.
Ellard gets it away. Ball bounces at the 20. And another friendly bounce for Ellard. Second short punt tonight that's rolled inside the 10. And this one goes 1 yard farther, all the way down to the 6. Now, the last time, Bob, that Ellard got a friendly bounce, Troy ended up starting from the 7 and going 93 yards for a touchdown. It's going to have to be 94 this time, but the Trojans' offense is looking good.
Especially coming out here in the second half. And again, the balance, but being able to run the football. And it's my belief, if you're at this point of the field, where the game is at the score where you are, got to be able to run the football right here as well. And so far, so good in running the football here. Late second half and into the second quarter rather, into the third quarter for Troy.
1st and 10 for Troy from its own 6. Handoff to Billingsley, up the middle, hit at the 10 and pushes the pile near the 12. Gain of 6 or 7 for Billingsley on first down. We talked about it, Bob. Troy came in with a reputation as a passing team 57% of the time. They've been much more efficient on the ground tonight than through the air.
And again, they're trying to even those numbers out a little bit. We talked about it in the first half, but getting it done on first down by Billingsley really sets you up. Now they've got a 3rd and short. And so now the play calling, in my opinion, becomes a little interesting here. If you're Troy, now we've got an injured Western Kentucky player, but what do you call in this situation if you're Troy? They're going to actually get the benefit of the injury to be able to talk about it and a dead ball as well.
Broderick Martin, the redshirt senior transfer in his second year on the Hill from North Alabama, which recently transitioned from Division II to FCS, now playing in the Atlantic Sun. And Martin makes his way off the field. Thankfully, it doesn't seem to be too serious for him. Not sure we had an injury the entirety of the first half, certainly not one that required a stoppage in play. We've had 3 in the matter of the last 5 plays or so.
So coaches talk about mark this 3rd down, mark this 3rd down. Remember this one when they talk on those famous Monday afternoon press conferences. This will be one of the 3rd downs that Troy will be talking about. Did we convert here?
Heavy package in for both teams. Billingsley has enough. He needed 2, maybe 3, and he's out to the 18. Call it a first down for Troy.
I'll stand by it. I think that's a big conversion on 3rd down. It was a 3rd and manageable. We've seen Troy in a lot of 3rd and 10s, 3rd and 12s tonight.
Billingsley again to the 23, a gain of 6. It feels like John Summerall has agreed with us, looking at the numbers, looking at the eye test, and decided he's going to ground and pound to start this 3rd quarter. Troy scored 10 in a row. Billingsley again along the hash across the 30, has a first down, but a flag down behind the play. A Troy lineman or 2 slow to get up as well. You would think this is going to be coming back.
He's able to get to the outside. Off the left tackle, running over there behind Stidham again.
Offense, number 89. 10-yard penalty, replay 2nd down.
It is a hold against the Trojans. Haven't been many penalties either since those early couple of drives. That's the 4th against the Trojans for 45 yards. Western Kentucky's been called for 4 for 30 yards. These 2 teams have combined now for nearly 600 yards of offense. The right side of the screen there. Evans getting held by the backup tight end Allendijk. So it creates a 2nd and 14 and flags again. Western Kentucky says that Troy jumped, and that is indeed going to be the call. It'll be 2nd and 19 for the Trojans.
False start. Offense, number 64. 5-yard penalty.
Butler, the
Remains
senior.
2nd down.
Call for the false start.
Now you've got to be of the opinion I'm now 2nd and 20, and I'm all the way inside my own 10-yard line. So you've got to break it down. Your coaches talk a lot about that. You need to get 8 or 10 yards per play. Get yourself in a reasonable third. It'll still be a 3rd and long, but you don't want to be throwing the ball out of your end zone here. And 2 5-yard penalties, total of 10, really make the difference in your play calling and your approach here if you're Troy.
Watson under pressure, slung down by Evans, back at the goal line. Jaquez Evans got through like a shot. 4.5 sacks now this year to lead the Tops.
Right off the edge. He's going to beat Daniel King. Lucky to stay in the field of play. If you're Gunnar Watson in that case. Now you've got to be careful. It's an obvious passing situation. Now you got to be careful not to hold in the end zone. A lot of nuances obviously here as you work 3rd and long from your own 1.
Watson goes under center, tries the hard count, handoff right up the middle just to try to avoid a safety. Vidal is able to do that out to the 3. And this is going to be a tricky punt now for Mike Rivers and Troy.
Now punting is a very good option in this situation. Yeah, here coaches from a 3rd and 3 yards in a cloud of dust standpoint that like to run the football a lot, that punting is not a sin, not a problem, and in this case, no words could be truer.
Jalen Hall waits at the plus 45. Rivers was hit, but the Western Kentucky man was blocked into him. It's a short punt and takes a Troy bounce across the 45. Western Kentucky will take over in plus territory at the Trojans' 46-yard line. The pressure was applied for Western Kentucky by Anthony Brackenridge, but the referee said he was blocked into the punter. You'll see him here coming in. He's lucky. There was a hit by Allendijk, but he had gone into the air voluntarily.
I think Allendijk grazed him at worst, and Allendijk even is looking back.
And is that Rivers who's slow to get up?
It is your punter that you've got to go out and check on. It's lying in his own end zone.
And John Summerall just had a 15-yard unsportsmanlike flag thrown on him on the Troy sideline.
Unsportsmanlike conduct on the coach. That's his first. It's a 15-yard penalty. That's his first
Troy's head
unsportsmanlike
coach,
conduct.
John Summerall, just picked up a 15-yard unsportsmanlike penalty. He was giving it to the referee, Ed Ardito, who had heard enough. And that's going to move the ball from the Troy 46 to the 31 and set Western Kentucky up with fabulous field position. On the one hand, Bob, you can understand why John Summerall is frustrated, because I think Western Kentucky has gotten 5, 6, 7 breaks from the officials tonight, and Troy has gotten 1 or 2. At the same time, his team can't afford 15 yards there.
Yeah, not in this case when you're starting in plus territory from the outset after the punt out of your own end zone. But I kind of think in the ebb and flow of a game, back to what you were just talking about, looks like Troy was kind of getting the better of a few breaks there at that point in time. Well, that's totally changed right now with this mark off of 15. And now defensively, Troy is in a very, very tough position. They could come out of this with just 3. I would consider it a victory for them.
Reed in the gun, handoff to Robichaux, has room off the right side, breaks a tackle inside the 25, and he's close to a first down, a pickup of 9 for Robichaux.
Robichaux has confirmed Western coaching staff's belief in him to be their #1 running back, and he's showing it tonight.
Interesting pistol look with Corley, the deep back. He gets a block from Robichaux leading the way, and there's no gain there. Carlton Marshall helped seal the edge for Troy, maybe even lost a yard. It'll be 3rd and 2, and the Top's still moving quickly.
Same formation. Very rarely has Malachi Corley in no gain. Those words come out of one's mouth.
Official stop play just before the snap. And they're talking this over. There's no flag on the field. I didn't see either coach call timeout.
Time to clear to play. Third down.
And they're going to reset the ball, maybe just worried about the clock. Interesting that Western went right back to the same formation, though, and tossing it to Corley on 3rd down and 2. He's taking that toss 10, 12 yards behind the line of scrimmage.
And to the short side of the field. Now let's see if they're going to come back out with that same pistol look. It looks not to be the case. And if ever I could make the comment that it's 4 down territory, this is it, given where we are, down a distance in the game. All of those elements favor Western Kentucky right here.
A rare heavy set for the Tops. 2 tight ends and an extra offensive lineman. Reed keeps it, lowers his shoulder inside the 20 with a 1st down. That's Austin Reed taking on the Sun Belt's all-time leading tackler, Carlton Marshall.
And that's the matchup that if you're Troy, you're thinking, I've got the better hands in. Let's talk about play calling. We complimented Troy into the first half rather, early here in the second. Well, the play calling here, Reed has run on 2 consecutive possessions in a design play for Western Kentucky. Now look at this formation.
Has both running backs in the game, fakes the pitch to Davis, now gives it outside to Irvin Poindexter, and that was going nowhere. Western Kentucky's trying to get a little tricky on this possession, but that lost 5 or 6 yards.
And you can sometimes question that, maybe you outcoach yourself. This is very good defense. Again, you're running to the short side of the field. This is very good pursuit defense by Troy.
Another Trojan has stayed down. Looks like Will Cholo, who is out there pursuing the play, the defensive lineman, senior from Lawrenceville, Georgia, who is now on a knee and back up to his feet. So hopefully he's going to be all right, limping off. He's a key part of this defense as well. 2nd team All Sun Belt each of the last 3 years, and those PFF ratings have loved him the last couple seasons.
Now this has become all too familiar of a scene for Troy here in the first 10 minutes of the second half. I did mention earlier that Marshall missed the Appalachian State game. Leading tackler on Troy, one of the leading tacklers in the nation, missing that key game. He was 100% last week against Marshall. Had the big interception earlier tonight, but that's one of those that we didn't mention earlier that's missed considerable playing time for Troy.
So 2nd down and 14 coming up for Western Kentucky. Those toss plays deep in the backfield have not been working out. Reed has time, now he's under pressure, and he's slung down from the backside. Sacked again by T.J. Jackson.
And Nate, have you seen any of these quick passes to the wide receivers from Western Kentucky here in the second half? They've kind of gotten away from that. And when you look at the position on the field, it kind of makes sense here. This is good. It's just good defense. There's not a lot you can say about it. Jackson making a power move, and now it's 3rd and forever for Western Kentucky.
I'll call it 3rd down and 21. Might want to just get a little chunk back to set up a Narvison field goal that would tie the game now late in the 3rd quarter. Play clock at 1. Reed just gets it off. Shuffles to his left. Throws for Matheson. Low and incomplete. Troy makes a stand defensively. In the end, Western Kentucky gains 2 yards on the drive after a couple of backwards plays following the 1st down. And Narvison's going to have a pretty lengthy field goal.
So the Troy defense held up for their head coach after getting the penalty and giving Western very good starting field position. And this is by no means a gimme for Narvison. Remember, he hit the upright back in the first half.
He banked it in off the left upright from 43. This is going the same direction from the same right hash. The kick is on the way, and it is good. Braden Narvison has been his usual consistent self again. A little help from the upright on the first one, not so much on the second, and he's tied the game for Western Kentucky. Arvidsson had his struggles against Indiana a couple of weeks ago. Wasn't asked to kick with pressure in the blowout over FIU last Saturday. He has settled in on a couple of pressure kicks tonight, and the score is knotted up with 3.5 to go in the third. Troy and Western Kentucky knotted up late in the third quarter. Who would want it any other way? Nate Gatter, Bob Belvin back with you in Bowling Green, where Corey Munson has it on the tee. Jabri Barber is deep for Troy. Munson sends it deep and into the end zone for a touchback. The Trojans will start at the 25. Tyson Helton gave a couple of keys this week for Western Kentucky defensively. He said contain the big plays in the passing game, which they've mostly done, and stop the run, which they haven't really done.
Oh, you remember, go back to the open, I talked about whichever team I thought could amass about 125 plus yards could probably win this game. And as the game has progressed, Troy's got better at running the football. They still struggled, early on, and then they've been able to get it done. And again, that first down in any game is crucial, but Troy has done very well here in the second half on first down.
Kimani Vidal behind Watson in the pistol. Off play action. Over the middle. Tez Johnson comes free. He's across the 40. A gain of 16 yards and a Troy first down. Tez Johnson has made a couple of big catches and thrown a touchdown in the third quarter.
Just settling into the zone. Watch a defender turn his back, get lost. That's Smith. Big play for Troy to start.
Handoff to Vidal. Cuts it out left. In pursuit, it's Oliver trying to pull him down, and eventually Smith plants him after a gain of 10. Flag comes in at the end, and could this be for a horse collar pulling back on Vidal? It was tough to tell if Oliver got his hand all the way up to the nameplate or not, but if he did, there might be 15 yards tacked on to the end of this.
Maybe a hold as well.
Personal foul, face mask, number 20 on the defense. 15 yards from the end of the run,
threw a flag
automatic
that landed
first down.
at Stidham's feet over there. I was a little cautious about that, but Nate Gatter's got it. Watch for the tackle, the point right there. Oh, there's easily a face mask, and not one where it grazed it. There was a second of a hold onto that face mask, and that's all it takes. And look, Troy's now in plus territory.
Yeah, that took all of a couple of snaps for the Trojans. 1st and 10 at the Western Kentucky 34. Heavy package with Allendike in as an H-back. Play action. Watson wants to go deep. Has time. Everybody's covered. Throws short for Vidal, somewhat dangerously so. It's incomplete. Watson took a big hit at the end of the play, and he is down on the far sideline. Trojans have been dropping like flies in this third quarter, and Gunnar Watson, who's had a really nice season this year, just paid the price after holding the ball a long time on that play.
He had the go route to the post and just did not respond to it. Didn't feel like that receiver was open enough, and would have been better off by just throwing it deep and away. This is the latter part of the play. Let's see how he lands. Just landed on his back, just kind of took the air out of him, we're hoping.
Yeah, you worry a little bit
about across the field now.
About the head snapping back there. He's going to have to come off for at least one play, and Bob, that means that the backup quarterback is going to come in. We know that. But it's not just any backup quarterback.
Correct.
First of all, it's Jarrett Dagey, who is the leading active passer in FBS coming into this season in yards and touchdowns after his career, the last 3 years of which were at West Virginia. Then he was with Western Kentucky over the summer, competing with Austin Reed, a couple of transfers for the starting job. He lost the job to Reed in August, transferred to Troy, and now he's getting a chance to take the field in Bowling Green.
Irony. That's the first word that comes to mind when you look at the quarterback that's going on the field right now. And of concern for Troy is Watson's health. They'll take him to the tent, and he'll undergo an examination.
I think I heard a couple of boos there as Dagey made his way onto the field. Western Kentucky crowd getting a little bit riled up, seeing number 9 in crimson out there for the visiting Trojans. He's tried just 12 passes this year, drops the first snap, has to run with it, takes a hit from Halasi and goes down after a gain of a yard. and now Western Kentucky can pin the ears back on 3rd down and 9.
I'm going to credit him for getting a yard out of that. Clearly mishandled the snap. And that was intended to be another running play to kind of let him get acclimated to the game. And instead, not the case at all. He did not get the ball to Vidal. So here we go. Now let's see how many Western puts in the box here. It looks like they may have 9, maybe 10 players within 3 yards, 2 yards of the line of scrimmage.
3rd and 9. Daigie to throw. Clean pocket, lofts it for Vidal, incomplete. The Troy sideline wants another flag, not gonna get it. And now it's decision time for John Sumrall. He can go for it on 4th and 9, or he can try a 50-yard field goal. Buse's long this year is 40, and the offense is staying on the field.
I got mixed emotions about this. If you bring Buse out and see what he can do, they're going to overload the left side.
Troy has converted 1 4th down on 2 tries tonight, 6 of 14 on the season. And a timeout called by John Sumrall. He didn't like the look, he didn't like the crowd noise. Either way, he decided he wants to talk this over with his backup quarterback, who for all his experience has only tried 13 passes this year and hasn't been in the game at all for a couple of weeks.
I would be curious if you don't see Buse come onto the field and try what would probably be about a 50, 51-yarder. No sight of Watson inside the tent. This is why these coaches make a lot of money right here, Nate.
I was just going to say, it's interesting, especially for John Sumrall in just his 5th game as a head coach, and he was a defensive guy. So it's not as though he would have been very involved in the past in his career in decisions on even whether they're going for it on 4th down, let alone what kind of play call they're looking for. So the spotlight is on Sumrall, although it's the secondary one. The main spotlight is on number 9, Jared Daigie.
Let's see what he can do. I think you just cannot run the football in this case, obviously, because I don't think, given down the distance where you are in the game, defensive alignment, all those things, you can squeak out 9 yards running the football. And you got to make the pass. And Daigie didn't even take any warm-up throws. You thought he might even try that a little bit more to get warm, because the pass he threw was horribly off target.
It's the loudest Houchin-Smith Stadium has been all night. Here comes a blitz. Daigie has time. Throws downfield for Johnson, who's got it inside the 20. Tez Johnson got loose, and it's a big completion for Troy on 4th and 9 to set up the Trojans in the red zone.
That might be the biggest 4th down conversion this season for Troy, and I have to go back and take a look, but Daigie with a pass. So much for my idea of bringing on the field goal unit.
Here comes Vidal. A couple between the hashes. It'll be 2nd down and 8. At the very least, now it would be a simple field goal from this distance, so Troy can afford to be a little more conservative with these play calls. Nothing conservative about 4th and 9, though.
No, nothing conservative about making the completion here on the quick out.
Great adjustment by Tez Johnson, too, because that pass was not thrown where his route was headed. He had to come back to the football.
I think Tez Johnson's one of the most underrated receivers in the nation. When you see some of the things that he's been able to accomplish, particularly that big 64-yard catch and run last week.
Busted play. Daigie's in trouble. Lofts it to the end zone and out the back of the end zone, incomplete. There's a flag down at the end. Was this roughing the passer? Finally on this series, Troy has gotten a couple of penalties that sideline for the Trojans has been begging for all night long. A face mask and now a potential roughing the passer. Instead of 3rd and 8, this would move the ball half the distance to the goal, put it inside the 7, and give the Trojans a 1st down if it stands. We have seen Ed Ardito's crew pick up a flag already tonight. And they're having a long conversation about this one. See if we can tell what happens at the end after this busted play. It's marginal. Upton Stout was coming in. Halasi had Daigie low. Let's hear from Mr. Ardito.
2 fouls on the play. We have a personal foul, roughing the passer, on number 21. We also have intentional grounding on the quarterback. He dumped the ball into an area that there was no eligible receiver. So those penalties were offset and replayed it down.
Yeah, the referees just called these offsetting penalties, but that's a mistake. There's not supposed to be intentional grounding on a ball that goes out of the back of the end zone. So Troy has just, I think, been victimized again, but the Troy sideline isn't saying a whole lot. So the fouls are going to offset. It still benefits the Trojans because they get to replay second down, but that keeps the ball back at the 13-yard line.
I was going to say Deji made lemonade out of lemons right then because he botched the turn on the handoff to the running back, but he did throw the ball out of the back of the end zone. I would like to get a little clarification on that.
Barber in motion. He gets it in the flat and stumbles down immediately. A loss of 3 on the completion from Daigie to Barber. It'll be 3rd down and 11. And now you wonder if Troy will be more conservative rather than forcing Daigie to make a play.
I'm going to find Tez Johnson rather the football one more time and target him. I just feel compelled. Got to get him into the game at this point in time. And again, we talked about it on the big play earlier that Troy scored the touchdown on here to begin the 3rd quarter. You know, your field is only right now 26 yards long. You've shrunk quite a bit. The main thing you want to do is get the ball near the 5-yard line and convert on this 3rd down. And now you're going to have a quarter break to talk about it.
We'll go to the 4th quarter. Western Kentucky and Troy in a barn burner. It's 20 all and a 3rd down and 11 waiting for the technically former Hilltopper Jared Daigie and his Troy Trojans having to come off the bench in relief of Gunnar Watson. This game has had a little bit of everything. Who knows what the final 15 minutes have in store. Stay with us from Bowling Green. Look at that scoring summary. Troy had the lead. Western Kentucky took it going into the half. Troy looked very good on that first drive of the 3rd quarter, but the Hilltoppers have tied it up. Now a massive 3rd and 11 at the Western Kentucky 16-yard line for Jared Daigie and the Trojans to start the 4th quarter. Daigie in the gun. Under pressure, throws to the corner. Barber goes up, he's at the goal line. Is he in? Yes, for a touchdown. There's a flag behind the play. Troy has taken the lead on a 16-yard connection from Daigie to Barber. The foul is for intentional grounding. The touchdown will stand, and Jared Daigie back in Bowling Green has put the Trojans in the lead again.
Let the Boo Birds begin here in Bowling Green.
And what a catch for Jabri Barber, who's had a couple of drops in this game.
And good coverage, too.
Just the 3rd catch for Barber. Goes for 16 yards and a TD. Here's Buse for the point after. Right down the middle. 14:54 to go. And Western Kentucky is going to be under a lot more pressure down the stretch tonight than they were last week. Jawan Jones is slow to get up here, key defensive lineman for the Hilltoppers. He's frustrated, but let's get another look at this Daigie to Barber connection.
Throw of the game, pass of the game. Could you have written a script any better? And the defense is there by Western Kentucky.
Jones might have gotten away with a little tug of the jersey on Barber as well as he was coming out of his break. Didn't matter. 2nd touchdown of the season for Jabri Barber. Went for over 100 yards last week. He's been mostly bottled up tonight, but he has the biggest catch of the evening.
This one belongs in the fiction section of the library if it holds up. Wow.
3 completions on 4 attempts for Daigie, 31 yards and a score, coming on in relief of Gunnar Watson on that drive after Watson took a big hit. We have not seen him out and about on the sideline yet either, so there's a chance that it'll be Daigie behind center for Troy the remainder of the night.
Daigie's out talking to the offense at their meeting spot along the sideline, and he's running his own hype video down there. And don't forget that Troy will kick off from the 50 following the roughing the passer penalty on the touchdown pass.
Yeah, Troy would have also had the option to move the ball half the distance to the goal and go for 2, which has become popular in the NFL because of how it changes the math. But they opted to kick it. It's pooched inside the 10, and Matheson was waving for a fair catch almost before that kick came off the toe of Zach Long. He didn't want any part of that return.
Great decision by Matheson, actually. A couple things to watch here as we begin the fourth quarter. I think there's a lot more jawing going on. There's a lot more interaction between the players after the whistle. We saw that on the point after. A couple of the Western players got up. They were angry. They thought there was, something extracurricular going on in the interior of the line. So I don't watch these two teams getting a little bit of edge. You kind of wonder if Daggy in the game has kind of accelerated that a little bit.
1st and 10 from the 25. Reed quickly to Dawood Davis, who couldn't hang on. Davis had the big first half. In fact, that's the second time all night he's been targeted and not pulled it in. 8 catches for 103 yards, but Troy has tightened things up on him late in this game.
And that ball was not a well-thrown ball for Davis. It's generally been off his back shoulder, and this was forward down the field somewhat, and the placement of that ball, just the pass itself, is not what Davis has been looking at. Not to discount the night Davis has had, which has been exceptional.
2nd and 10 for Reed and the Hilltoppers. Jalen Hall in motion, and a flag before the snap. Another pre-snap penalty coming against Western Kentucky. 7th time they've been flagged tonight.
Number 76, 5-yard penalty, still 2nd down.
Back to a little discussion more about Davis. He's a lone receiver in the short side of the field, and immediately he made some kind of signal to Reed, and Troy changed their defensive alignment to the point that they crept more toward the middle of the field and kind of left him alone. It's kind of curious to see that. I want to see if they can get a one-on-one matchup on the outside, and they have it, and they want to throw the deep ball.
Reed was looking that way from the snap, and Davis makes a sprawling catch at the 30, a gain of 10 yards. Gets the penalty back and then some to set up a manageable 3rd and 5.
Yeah, allow me to correct myself. The comeback ball here. Thought they might go deep. They still may out of this. That's a well-thrown ball. A little bit different than the last pace to Davis, but now they continue to isolate him to the short side of the field. They'll try and run a go route here out of it. Look for some type of double move here very soon. Peyton Higgins with a coverage here. Now he's going to go back toward the middle of the field. Davis will come tight in the formation. Malachi Corley, again, I'm going to call his name out as well, Nate. I haven't seen a lot of him in this game overall.
Michael Matheson wide open, has the first down across the 40. A big pickup on 3rd down. The Tops needed 5, they got a dozen. They want to pick up the pace.
Now watch this formation here. Matheson has been exceptional tonight as well.
Had that long touchdown catch in the 2nd quarter. Long throw to the wide side of the field for Hall, who couldn't bring it in. Coverage from O'Shea Fletcher. And it sets up 2nd and 10.
This is not the best of throws. It's low. No, I take that back. It's just a drop. Again, we talked about Reed and his accuracy, which has been a little suspect tonight. They have to attribute a lot of it to the pressure Troy's been able to bring. And primarily they're going to still stay in that 3-4, but now they're going to bring some rushers off the edge. They're going to go with a gap pursuit here from the line of scrimmage.
Reed under pressure. Deep ball for Davis, locked up with Stewart. Incomplete, no flag.
That might be an OPI, if anything, right then. And Troy's staff is upset about that. And Davis is going to fight for his real estate here. Let's see what he does. Probably area. Look at the push right there.
Good coverage one-on-one by Stewart, who's had a nice night.
He has.
Now 3rd down and 10 for the Hilltoppers. In danger otherwise of having to punt the ball right back to Troy and take the risk of falling 2 possessions behind early in the 4th quarter. Irvin Poindexter in motion. Reed slings it to the left side for Hall, who juggles and pulls it into the 45, broke a tackle and retreated near the first down marker, and they're going to put him a yard short. What a mental mistake by Jalen Hall. Broke the tackle and promptly gave away 4 yards to make this 4th down and 1.
And a great play by Reed, because Troy disguised the blitz right up the middle and Reed got it away. And you'll see the first down is had here, but voluntarily he goes backwards and tries to get to the edge. That's the difference.
Western Kentucky going to go for it on 4th down and 1 for the 49. 0 for 1 on 4th down tonight. Handoff to Irvin Poindexter. He stood up for a moment but keeps churning for the first down. Needed 1 and got 2. Not a lot of action tonight for Davion Irvin Poindexter, but he got the hard yards there.
Well, that's what they needed for Western Kentucky, just to get that. Nothing flashy there. We've seen him gain more playing time as this game has progressed.
First and 10 of the 47. RPO outside to Matheson. He's had a lot of fun on the perimeter tonight. This time he's locked up after a gain of 5. Sets up 2nd down and short, but good discipline by O'Shea Fletcher to stay in front of him.
And a good block by Jalen Hall, making up for the mistake earlier. Watch the block there by Jalen Hall, 0. And that creates a good 5+ on first down.
Handoff to Robichaux, make that Davion Irvin Poindexter. Goes for 2 to the 41, sets up 3rd down and 4.
Now if you're Troy, you can bow defensively and stop them on 3rd. This is a 57-yard field goal, roughly, give or take, for Narveson as we stand now.
You wonder with that in mind if Western Kentucky might consider running the football again, but the Hilltoppers have not done that very well tonight. Just 48 rushing yards as a team. And even if you take out the sacks that have cost them some yardage, they've averaged just 3.6 yards per carry, which is not going to get it done. Robichaux, make that Irvin Poindexter again. He falls forward inside the 40, but that was not much, maybe a yard. It's going to be 4th down and a long 2 coming up for Western.
And here comes exactly the scenario you talked about. And Marshall with another tackle, just filling the gap. That's the solo tackle right there on the ball carrier. So now, clearly the biggest 4th down of the game right here for Western Kentucky.
That's 10 tackles for Marshall tonight after 18 last week to push him to 475 for his career and set the Sun Belt record. 4th and 2. Play action to Robichaux. Reed under pressure, throws into double coverage, and Davis can't pull it down. A 4th down stop for Troy, and the Trojans get it back with a 7-point lead. Reed was under pressure right away, and Troy was not going to be beaten over the top by Dawood Davis.
That's exactly what happened here. 2 defenders, and that's not even zone coverage, that's man. They doubled Davis on the outside, and they were going to take their chances, and guess what? Paid off.
Troy gets the ball when we come back, up by 7. Bob, Troy's had 2 4th down stops tonight. Javon Solomon has been in the backfield for both of them.
Right here, Reed just under pressure. Didn't focus more on the end of the play, but you're right, Solomon with the pressure, and that's the difference.
Jarrett Dagey back in the shotgun, out there for a second drive after the injury to Watson. Hands off to Billingsley for a pickup of 5 on first down. Tell you what, Bob, I think I could do the take the snap and hand it to Billingsley. That's been an easy recipe for Troy tonight.
He's been outstanding tonight. In a running game again that continues to emerge.
Billingsley once again, his 17th carry of the night, and he's into Western Kentucky territory. Rips off 9 more. That's 14 yards on his first 2 carries and a first down for Troy.
DeAndre Butler, the big O lineman, first out there to congratulate him, and why not?
Dagey quickly to Tez Johnson, who's had a big second half, breaks a tackle, bounces it outside, and he's ridden down near the sideline. Good pursuit, but not before another productive first down gain makes it 2nd down and 4.
I like that throw on first down rather, after getting the completion moving it to the first down rather on the run. I was watching, they're trying to hold. Johnson needs something from the sideline. He wants to change the ball out.
Tez Johnson made his way off eventually. So it's 2nd down and 4 for Troy at the Western Kentucky 41. This Hilltoppers defense has had a tough time in the second half. Play action. Dagey over the middle. Deshaun Stoudemire to the 25. Another big gain for Troy. 16 yards and a first down.
You know, Dagey's been around. We've talked about his stops along the way, but here's the problem Western Kentucky has right now. They're letting him get a little bit of confidence throwing the football, with Billingsley right here running again, doing so well, running it.
Tripped up in the backfield that time by Jaden Hunter, who got some late arriving help to put him on the ground from a couple of interior teammates. Just 1 yard for Billingsley, 2nd and 9.
I know it's odd to talk about confidence needed with a guy like Dagey, but think about it. The first couple of plays, he had the botched handoff, then he tried to throw the deep pass out of the back of the end zone, which I still think is a bad call. And he just looks shaky, as you might expect him to be. But as he kind of grows into this game and his role right now, and Watson nowhere to be found, it's going to be his game to win or lose for Troy.
Down toward 9 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Play clock at 1. Dagey gets it off. Right side, complete to Marcus Rogers, who's been very quiet tonight. Tried to slip the tackle near the first down marker. He's going to be just short. 3rd down and a yard. In fact, that's the first catch of the night for Rogers.
Trying to get that first down after the catch. Had to take 4 defenders to get him down. Here's a big 3rd down.
Billingsley nearly hit in the backfield by Will Ignat, but slipped the tackle and ends up squirting through all the way to the 10. 6 more yards for Billingsley, puts him over 100 on the night.
Not going to find a lot of room on 3rd and short at that end of the field. And Billingsley able to squeeze through and make it happen, and now we going to put the markers down. They're going to call it an end goal situation at the ball at the 10.
Right on the 10-yard line, 1st and goal for Troy. Trojans already lead by 7. They need to make sure to get points out of this drive, which has been a challenge in the red zone for them at times this year. Billingsley wrapped up in the backfield by Ignat and slung down right at the line of scrimmage. Good play by the transfer linebacker from Tennessee.
And ball security is very important for Troy at this point as well. Got an opportunity here to get more points. Obviously you want a touchdown, but you've got to take care of the football right here. Make sure you maintain possession, give yourself an opportunity, and heaven forbid you commit a penalty at this point, which changes your whole play calling. And Dagey getting a feel for the game. So a lot of things going in favor of Troy and a lot still to worry about.
Kimani Vidal is the back to his right, spelling Billingsley. Dagey has to get the snap off. Play clock hit 0, but he got it away. Under pressure to the corner for Tez Johnson. Touchdown, Troy. It's a 2-score lead for the Trojans.
My love and affection for Tez Johnson has not changed tonight. They took a photographer out down in the corner. Tez Johnson has been outstanding tonight, and that's probably the biggest understatement I'll make.
Another roughing the passer penalty against Western Kentucky, and more trash talking between the two teams after the play. They're still coming together down around the 5-yard line. So again, Troy is going to be kicking off from the 50-yard line for the 2nd straight time. That's back-to-back Jared Dagey touchdowns on which he's been roughed, but I don't think he'll mind it too much to get the 6 points.
Oh, not at all. The other concern is if you rough him and knock him out of the game, you're down to your 3rd quarterback. The plus side of it is you potentially could have a 14-point lead here midway through the 4th quarter.
Buse puts it up and through. After the way Western Kentucky started this game, 75 yards right down the field, it looked like the Hilltoppers might run away with it. Instead, they're down 14 at home with 7 and change to go in the name. Bob, it's been the Jared Dagey show tonight since coming on. 7 for 8 in his return to Bowling Green, 71 yards and a couple of fourth quarter touchdowns to put the Trojans up 14.
Tez Johnson, what can you say? How about the pass? The photographer that's knocked down says he's okay with the thumbs up sign. I know the medical staff actually came over and took a look at him as well.
Hopefully he got the shot. See what they do here. This is the second straight kickoff for Long that's come from midfield after back-to-back roughing the passer penalties against Western Kentucky on touchdown throws. Last time they allowed a fair catch. This time he's just going to put the ball through the back of the end zone. Same result either way. And Western Kentucky will start from the 25. Now time is very much of the essence, Bob. 7:14 to go in the fourth quarter. This Hilltoppers offense can go quickly, and it can put up points. Coming into this game, Western Kentucky had scored 30 or more in 18 games in a row. Not only the longest streak in the country, but 10 games more than UCLA, which just got to 8 straight with 42 points and an upset of Washington last night. So they're capable, but they have to be perfect now.
Well, respectfully, you got to come back and look at their opponents. Austin Peay, Hawaii, FIU come to mind, and Indiana, they put up 30 plus as well in a losing effort. So can those numbers or have those numbers been misleading? This is a bit of an interesting first down play call, really trying to get Troy thinking long ball on the pass, just a couple of yards.
Clock running under 7 minutes. 2nd and 8 for Reed. 4-man rush. Over the middle, it's tipped and knocked away by Carlton Marshall, who nearly had his second interception of the night. Hall the intended target, and it's 3rd and 8.
Well, you can really question yourself when you find yourself in a 3rd and 8 and you're a predominantly passing team. And I am a little distracted by the amount of people leaving this stadium right now. When you put yourself in 3rd and 8, now I think defensively, obviously you have an advantage, but when you haven't been really consistent here in the second half, I think you're really in even more of a world of hurt if you're Western Kentucky.
Reed to the outside for Davis, who was hit immediately and dropped by Kyle Cass. The redshirt junior from New Orleans was there on the catch. No chance for Davis, and Western Kentucky is going to go for it on 4th down and 11 from its own territory.
I think Davis is the right guy you want to highlight on. We saw the double team on him earlier. This is just a great individual play by Cass. He gets through the blocker on the edge and makes the play. And why not focus on Davis in those situations? Reed is showing that tendency that at least for tonight, Davis has been his go-to guy.
4th down in the ball game. 11 yards to go. Reed under pressure. The pass is batted away. Caught by Gunnar Britton off the deflection. Britton has a blocker, and Britton has a first down. Troy was celebrating, and Gunnar Britton, the right tackle, caught the ball off the deflection and picked up a first down for Western Kentucky on 4th and 11. It's unbelievable.
Make Britton the 12th Western Kentucky player that's caught a pass tonight.
To the outside for Dalvin Smith, who stumbles forward for 5. Have you ever in your life seen a play like that?
Britton is going to hesitate once he catches the deflection. Watch this. And it's almost like, okay, watch the hesitation. There it is right there. It is like, hey, I can make this.
Quintavious Leslie looked back and said, let's go, big boy.
If I got Quintavious Leslie blocking for me at 6'3", 310, it's a good thing.
Reed against a 4-man rush. Down the middle for Matheson. He's got it in stride. Matheson breaks free. Matheson inside the 10 and down to the 6. Gunnar Britton has electrified this Western Kentucky offense, and they're knocking on the door.
That's the first big chunk play of the night for either team, and it comes at a time when Western Kentucky undoubtedly needed it.
Reed just lost the football. Kai Robichaux falls on it. Play action on the RPO. He wanted to go to Matheson on the quick screen, and Robichaux alertly fell on the football.
What a crazy sequence in the last 2 plays, but more importantly, it's an end goal situation here for Western Kentucky. And you do have to pay attention to the clock here as we've gone under 5 minutes. You know, Western Kentucky needs 2 scores, but they'll need another possession at some point. Should they score here?
Reed to throw again. Looking for Belgian on the late route, not there, lots of time, and he rifles it over Davis's head and out of the end zone. He took a hit at the end of the play, and could this be a roughing the passer going the other direction? Antonio Showers, the senior from Tucker, Georgia, number 3 in crimson, ended up on top of him.
In the head. Half the distance to the goal.
It goes against Buda
automatic
Jones,
first down.
who played a big part last week against Marshall when he picked up a fumble after a T.J. Jackson scoop sack and rumbled back for the touchdown, 24 yards. Said it was his first TD since 3rd grade, but his biggest contribution so far tonight is one he'll want to forget.
Well, I continue to advise you to go to Google and watch the scoop and score with Buda from last week. That was not one of his finest moments right then. So much time because you're only rushing 3 from Troy. Finally, Buda gets to him and then roughs him.
1st and goal at the 4. A miraculous drive for the Hilltoppers to even get to this point. Reed has some time. To the right side, knocked away from Malachi Corley, who wants a flag, but Del Pettis said no.
Pettis with a great play then. And that's exactly what you're taught to do in the secondary, particularly with a ball thrown in the end zone, and that is bat it away. Don't try and deflect it. Don't try and intercept it in that situation. Just bat it away.
John Sumrall talks about the versatility he requires from his defenders, the cross-training they have to do at different positions. Well, Pettis was a freshman All-American at free safety, 3rd team All-Sun Belt the following year at strong safety, and he just locked up Malachi Corley one-on-one. 2nd and goal at the 4. Reed wants the fade, threw it short and incomplete, looking for Hall, who is covered by Reddy Stewart. He has had a phenomenal game on the outside for Troy.
Yeah, Stewart with inside position here. This ball should have been thrown to the back corner, and instead it was thrown short. It's not a good choice by Reed right then for Western. Throw that fade route in the corner, and that's something you know that quarterback and receivers work on throughout the season, and particularly in the summertime when you'll see them in the stadium. And that is just not the right route to run, and Reed should be throwing that ball into the corner pylon.
Stewart, one of the best cover corners in the country. Last year allowed only 8 catches on 28 targets, 2nd best percentage in FBS. 3rd down for Reed. On the slant, Davis had it knocked away. The Troy DBs standing tall again. It's Kyle Cass with his 2nd big play of the drive, and it sets up 4th down and goal for the Hilltoppers, who have no choice but to go for it.
Well, inside leverage right here by Cass, and I'm surprised that the fade route or deeper route into the back corner of the end zone's not thrown here. Take a look at this. Cass has got great inside position. Davis doesn't have a chance on that ball.
4th down and goal. Western Kentucky needs 2 scores. Three straight incompletions from Austin Reed. 3 to snap it. And Western Kentucky just jumped. Another pre-snap penalty for the Hilltoppers. And it's going to be 4th down and goal back at the 9.
I'm going to make the argument this gives you 5 more yards to work with if you're Western Kentucky. So I'm going to look on the bright side of this penalty, and it's going to come from the right side. Quite sure who that is that was jumping there, but
it's Vincent Murphy, the right guard. They called it on.
Yeah, I think that gives you a little bit more room to work with if you're Austin Reed.
Be interesting to see if Troy decides to bring pressure here. They were only rushing 3 on that play, but there's more room now for Western Kentucky receivers to run around in that end zone. Might not want Reed to stand back there all day. Another Western Kentucky false start, it looked like. Over the middle, caught by Davis in the back of the end zone. Daywood Davis on 4th down from 9 yards out, his 11th catch, and he pulls the Hilltoppers within a score.
Davis has been exceptional tonight too, and even when you know he's your go-to guy, we saw it on the play before where they were targeting him in the end zone, but in this case, going to the back of the end zone, to your point, giving yourself a little more room and not allowing that defender to get the inside position.
Narvison's extra point is good. 4 minutes and 20 seconds to go in the game. And Western Kentucky has found some life. Hilltoppers defense, though, still needs to get a stop. Dagey, Billingsley, and company on the field when we return. Troy leads by 7 with 4:20 to go in the fourth quarter. Let's get a look at these two plays for Western Kentucky. The deep ball to Michael Matheson, who has almost 100 yards after the catch alone tonight, and that set up the touchdown to Dawood Davis, who has been the man.
Keep in mind, this touchdown is on 4th down in desperation, and Davis gets the best of Cass on that particular play, and that's the biggest play of the night so far that keeps Western in the game.
Masson's kick hits and bounces into the end zone. Munson popped that up to bounce at the 5, and Tez Johnson rather cavalierly let it bounce. Had that kicked back, which is unlikely on a kickoff, but had it kicked back into the field of play, he would have had to try to get on that. It would have been a live football.
I'm so sure that that was a smart move to watch that one if you're Johnson. He hasn't done a lot wrong tonight, so I can't question that.
So Western Kentucky's back in the game after the touchdown, which followed the miraculous 4th down conversion by Gunnar Britton, who caught the deflected ball. An offensive tackle went for the first down on 4th and 11. That's the upside. The downside is they have done very little to stop Troy, especially since Jared Dagey, the backup quarterback, came on. And DK Billingsley, the running back, has been a big part of that. He carries close to the 30. They'll give him just about 5 yards. And that's exactly what Troy needs. Billingsley just consistently getting north-south, and he's done that all evening.
Billingsley with 108 yards so far tonight. And at some point in time, you've got to look as to when Western will use their timeouts. And secondly, I feel Dagey is still going to throw the football in this possession at some point in time to keep the drive alive.
He's completed 7 of 8 passes for 71 yards and 2 scores since coming on in the second half. Lost out to Austin Reed in the quarterback battle here at Western Kentucky, transferred to Troy, and now getting his biggest chance of the year back at Houchin-Smith Stadium. But it's Billingsley who's doing the work for him at the moment. 6 yards on 2nd down, and he's moved the chains on 2 carries. Western Kentucky's going to have to stiffen up in the interior.
I think Troy's found their running back tonight. And when we talked about those declining statistics in pass percentage from the upper 60s to the upper 50s, and still trying to get some balance, I think Troy has found that tonight against a very good defensive Western Kentucky team.
They've been almost 50-50, 37 passes, 33 runs tonight. Billingsley, at one time the starting running back back in 2019 after an injury to star running back B.J. Smith, but he got just 9 carries all of last year. This is number 21 tonight, and it goes for another significant gain, 8 yards. DK Billingsley just going right up the middle, and Tyson Helton just had to use a timeout, which he does not want to do on 2nd and 2.
And the Cavalier Maverick in me thinks, if you've been making the play calls that you made to begin the second half, if you're Troy, maybe this is a throwing situation with 2nd and 4.
Quick timeout, Troy on top, 2nd and 2 when we get back. Tyson Helton needs his defense to make a stand against Troy's running game, something that hasn't happened the entire second half. Out of the timeout, the Hilltoppers just had 12 men on the field. They were able to run one off. 2nd down and 3. They've stacked the box. DK Billingsley has been the man. He's hit in the backfield and stacked up right at the line of scrimmage. Timeout, Western Kentucky sets up a big 3rd down and 3 with 2:47 to go. It worked out for the Hilltoppers, although I think Tyson Helton probably had a mini heart attack seeing 12 on the field after a 3-minute break.
Yeah, that's clearly the Cardinals' sin of calling a timeout. So remember I made that comment first half, mark down those 8 or 10 3rd down plays, make the difference in the game. Clearly it's easy to say it now, but this is one of them right here.
Well, 3rd down in general has been a big difference maker in this game. Troy was 1 for 6 in the first half. They've been 4 for 6 in the second half, and they've converted their red zone possessions into points. We thought the turnover margin would be important. It's been even, 1 interception thrown by each team, and that's what we thought. If Troy could do well at the line of scrimmage, which they have, not turn the ball over a lot, and turn some of their red zone possessions into touchdowns, they could win the football game.
And run the football well, which they've done very well with Billingsley.
And that's 141 rushing yards for Troy tonight, just 48 for Western Kentucky. If you take out the sacks, Troy has averaged 5 yards per carry. The Hilltoppers just 3.1.
I guess my question is, do you dare throw the football here?
Daigie is 7 for 8 through the air since coming on. Western Kentucky has 1 timeout left in 2:47. Not sure you're too worried about the clock in this situation from a Troy standpoint, because that's plenty of time for the Hilltoppers, whether they have a timeout or not. 3rd down and 2 with a 44. Everybody up at the line for Western Kentucky, and Jared Daigie calls timeout.
Now the question is he going to get Daigie going to get that look again? Is Troy as a team going to get that look again from Western Kentucky? And I have to think if you're Western Kentucky, you have to sell out for the run here. I just throw that conversation of dare you throw the football in just to have a little fun. I don't think there's any way Daigie throws the football here, because as the old saying goes, two bad things out of 3 happen when you throw the football. Incomplete pass and the clock stops. If you're thinking on that side of football 101, you just got to try and find a way to grind it out and get 3 yards here. That still doesn't assure you in winning the football game, but it goes a long, long way to really shrinking the game, and that's what you need to do.
Some Western Kentucky fans still holding out hope tonight that their Hilltoppers can find a way back from 14 down in the final 7 minutes. They've done half the battle, but they need a stop on 3rd and 2. Billingsley in the backfield with his 122 yards tonight. Handoff up the middle, he didn't get close. Western Kentucky swarmed him at the line of scrimmage. Tyson Helton is not using the timeout, so the clock is going to run down around 2 minutes to go. And now, does Troy have the gall to go for this on 4th down and try to ice the game?
Football 101 says no.
And indeed they will not. Mike Rivers, who you remember took a hit late on in that first half on a punt from out of the back of his own end zone, is back out to kick it away on 4th and 2 for the 44. Jalen Hall is the deep return man for Western Kentucky, but what great job by the Hilltoppers defense, as you said, Bob, selling out for the run. They took away the up-the-gut run that Billingsley had executed so well. Good punt from Rivers. Hall calls for the fair catch, makes it around the 10, and that's where Western Kentucky will have it. 1:56 to go, 1 timeout. The downside is they have to go 89 yards. The upside for the Hilltoppers is it's very simple. Everything's 4-down territory, touchdown or bust.
And maybe you will not have to include your offensive lineman with a reception.
That's the hope.
In that sequence. But that's the difference in this game, because that keeps it alive for Western Kentucky and allows them to score there just moments ago. I'm a little surprised you punt to Jalen Hall. I would think you would want to punt away from him and not give him a chance to return. In the end, it was fair caught. Well, here we go. First time Reed has been under this kind of pressure, absent maybe a little bit at Indiana.
1st and 10 for Reed. Outside for Davis. He's been the man tonight. Short gain near the 15. The clock running under $1:50 to go.
And that's important for the Troy defenders to keep Western Kentucky on the field, to not allow them to get out of bounds.
Reed in the pocket, flush to his right, has some room along the sideline, a 1st down, and he's out of bounds at the 23-yard line. Not a lot of running from Reed tonight, but he can use his legs when he needs to.
Well, he needed to then and converted, and again, just what I warned about, allowing Western to get out of bounds, and in that case, not really a lot of defenders in that area. All of them were deep in coverage. That's a pretty good move by Reed and really gives them a lot more to work with. 1st and down from your own 23.
Robichaux in the backfield with Reed. 4-man rush. Reed protected, steps up, throws down the field for Michael Matheson, knocked out of bounds at midfield.
Boy, Matheson has come up big tonight, wouldn't need it. We've talked a lot about the contributions of Davis. Matheson, big catch right at midfield.
He's over 150 yards receiving tonight. Play action. Reed hit as he throws. Malachi Corley on the sideline, out of bounds after a gain of 4. Clock stops with 1:22 to go. Reed shaking out his right hand a little bit after he was hit on the throw to his roommate Corley. 82 seconds left for the Hilltoppers. 46 yards separate them from a tie game.
If you score, do you go for two?
That would be the question for Western Kentucky at home. Reed has faced some pressure in the past. He won a Division II national champion at West Florida before transferring to Western Kentucky, but this is the first time he's done it at Houchin-Smith Stadium. Quarterback draw has Leslie in front of him, inside the 40 and down around the 35.
Put that as one of the top 5 play calls of the game, the night rather. And when you look at Reed at executing that, you got to be impressed with the 2 runs he's pulled down so far on this drive.
Quickly to Matheson along the sideline. The clock will stop. Just a gain of 2. Still 67 seconds to go, and the Hilltoppers sitting on that 1 timeout. Western Kentucky trailed by 14 points with 7:14 to go in the game. Reed took the top 75 yards, highlighted by Gunnar Britton, the right tackle, catching a deflected pass on 4th and 11 in their own territory to keep the game alive. His defense got a critical stop near midfield, and now Reed is 32 yards away from getting them going here in Bowling Green. He fakes to Hall, hit in the backfield, the ball is loose, it's still on the turf, Troy recovers. The Trojans get to Reed, they force the fumble, and on a turnover, Troy has just clinched this meeting of old Sun Belt rivals.
Let's see who got there first. Talk about a pocket collapsing. Let's go from above first. Bringing pressure, filling the gaps, and just stripping the football.
Richard Jubinor knocked it out.
I think it is, yes.
And it was on the turf for a second or two before anybody realized Antonio Showers recovered it.
Here's an even better look at it. Now defense wins championships, defense wins ball games. You hear all those chants? Well, right then when they needed it the most, Troy's defense responds. And this has been kind of a Sun Belt, Fun Belt, Conference USA shocker tonight here in Bowling Green.
They were taking a look at it for a moment. The play, unsurprisingly, is confirmed, and Troy is going to get out of Bowling Green with a big win on the road. Jarrett Dagey in his return throws for a couple of 4th quarter touchdowns. You'd have to call DK Billingsley the player of the game for the Trojans, but Jarrett Dagey might be the happiest man in Bowling Green tonight.
Such irony in sport. Dagey quarterbacking Troy at the end of this game after his short stay here in Bowling Green. Again, it's in the fiction section of the library, I promise you. What a strange turn of events tonight. Does college football ever disappoint?
Tyson Helton used his last time out when Troy can clearly kneel out the clock. I think that tells you all you need to know about how these 2 programs feel about each other. And tonight has only served to intensify those feelings because these 2 teams have not gotten along.
And to your point you mentioned earlier, administrations, coaches, players, all of them have changed since the old Sun Belt days.
There's something about those old rivalries. It just sinks into the fabric of the community. They feel it in the lead up to the game from folks around here. They feel it from the communities of the universities, and these players on both teams were ready for this game. What can you say, though, about the Troy Trojans, who suffered a heartbreaker of all heartbreakers on a 50-plus yard Hail Mary to lose on the last play on the road against App State a couple of weeks ago? They have come back from that by beating Marshall at home in dominating fashion and fighting through a lot of adversity tonight to win on the road against a really good Western Kentucky club. Jared Dagey having some conversations across the line of scrimmage with his defense, or the Western Kentucky defense, his former teammates. Tough to say how friendly those are at the moment.
We'll watch it post-game. But also in terms of Troy to come in and run the football as well as they have tonight. And the running statistics will be altered a bit by taking a knee here for Troy. To not finish the game with their starting quarterback, to have the look of being run out of the building early on, and now this.
Daigie just got lifted up on his teammates' shoulders for a moment. They know what this means for him. They are fired up for their quarterback coming off the bench to win this game for the Trojans and send the hometown crowd home without a smile tonight in Bowling Green. Former Sun Belt rivals did not disappoint tonight. We got a little bit of the shootout we expected, a game that came right down to the wire exactly as we thought it would. DK Billingsley was phenomenal for the Trojans, whose running game really provided the difference. And off the bench, a critical performance from Jared Daigie after Gunnar Watson went down in the second half with a couple of touchdown passes. He only threw one incompletion, and that won the ball game for the Trojans. They win at 34-27 tonight in Bowling Green. For my partner Bob Belvin and our entire ESPN Plus crew here in Bowling Green, we thank you so much for tuning in. Hope you've enjoyed tonight's game half as much as we've enjoyed bringing it to you. The Hilltoppers battled back, but they didn't have quite enough, and Troy escapes with a win on the road. Both teams now 3-2. Troy wins it 34-27 over Western Kentucky. This has been a presentation of ESPN.